now we're talking about our favorite rappers of all time is finding himself in political heat right now. We're talking about Ice Cube. After allegations, he is supporting the Trump administration, but we're here to straighten the record. We have one of Ice Cube's good friends, Willie D, from the legendary Ghetto Boys, and also Dennis Sperling, attorney here in Houston. Glad to have you on the Factor Uncensored. So, Willie D, you know Ice Cube personally. What about his decision to have conversations with the Trump administration when it comes to helping the Black community?
It's like I told him, I don't trust Trump as far as I can throw him, but I can't attack Ice Cube for wanting to talk to his administration. First of all, Cube never spoke to Trump personally. He's never met Trump personally. So he did speak to the Trump administration. He also spoke to the Biden administration. When he spoke to the Biden administration, well, not the Biden administration, but Biden's people, they told him, look, we like what you're doing. We like 85% of what you got there, but we'll get back with you after the election. Mm-hmm. Trump people was like, okay, we like that. And they made some adjustments on the spot. The thing is that Trump's so-called platinum plan is bogus because, as you know, Trump is a liar, he's a thief, he's a con artist. So he'll say and do anything to get what he wants. And once he gets what he wants, he has no problem throwing people under the bus, especially his friends. So if he'll do that to people that he's known for 20, 30 years, you know he'll do it to us.
Let's bring Dennis into this conversation. Did Ice Cube make the wrong political move here?
No, and if you look at this historically, Frederick Douglass spoke with Abraham Lincoln, and he was largely the reason that African Americans gained so many rights as they did during the Reconstruction period. We've always, as Black men and Black women, spoken to both parties. As far as I'm concerned, you know, the Democratic Party and the right and the Republican Party are two sides of the same coin. The question is, what can we as Black Americans, and I'm very careful to say Black Americans, because Ice Cube's plan, CWA, is for Black Americans. A lot of us seem to glance over the fact that this is not for people of color. That means it's not for Asians, Latinos, it's not for Arabs. This is for Black Americans. I applaud Ice Cube for what he's doing, because oftentimes we as Black Americans are overlooked. Our political needs are not aligned with our Latino brothers and sisters. And in fact, as a lifelong Democrat, I'm going to tell you that it seems as though the Democratic Party has gotten rid of us. When they found out that they can get more from our Latino brothers and sisters, they kind of shoo-shooed us away, and they really don't cater to us. When they realize they can get more from the other groups, the LGBT, these other groups, they seem to have just gotten rid of us. So I'm willing to entertain any conversations with any political party that will help Black Americans. So I applaud Ice Cube for what he's doing.
And Willie D, we have 30 seconds, exactly 30 seconds left. Is Ice Cube doing the right thing by approaching whatever party is willing to make a difference? Obviously, you don't trust President Trump, but is it okay, or should he be able to go to any party who's willing to come to the table? Got 20 seconds now.
But let me just say that political duopoly is a trap, and that one doesn't have to be pro-Trump to be anti-Biden. Having said that, Ice Cube has earned his stripes for 30 years plus. He's been riding for the Black community. He's been sticking his neck out, standing 10 toes down on his own. A lot of people today are very new into this space. Right. So I give Ice Cube the benefit of doubt.
Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App. Make sure you contribute to the PayPal. Make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
My name is Dennis Sperling. If you've been involved in an accident, call me and I'll fight for you. I'm not an actor or a celebrity spokesperson. I'm a real trial lawyer, and I'll appear before real judges and real juries on behalf of people with serious injuries.
So when I say I'll fight for you, I mean it, and I'll back it up. If you've been hurt in an automobile or 18-wheeler accident, contact me toll free at 866-529-2444, and I'll fight for your rights. Women are being forced to have to ante up. I think there is some incentive for it to change. And here's another thing. A lot of those ladies who have sons who they've seen been manhandled by the child support system, they should become advocates for family law reform. I think one thing we should do is we should begin to do away with child support altogether, because it's an incentive for women to have children, and then they reap a financial benefit from that. What we should do is push for equal time, and if there's equal time, then there's no need to pay child support, because you got equal time, unless there's some reason why the father shouldn't have equal time with the mom, at least after the child is breastfed, weaned off of breast milk, then we should go for that. I think that's what our family law system should be.
I could tell you about that just in Illinois. It depends on the judge, man. I went and fought for that, and the judge said he didn't believe in equal parent time and all that bullshit. So it's not like a lot of fathers went for equal parenting. They didn't want primary custody. They didn't want her to have primary. They wanted equal parenting. And the ones who do have it, they either paying more money, they paying child support still, or they're not allowed to get it, and they paying full child support whatever other weekend. So
or it's off the paper. In other words, they still have them half the time, but they're still paying a monthly ransom.
You make more money. Yeah.
Right.
They full of shit, bro. That's why I say fuck child support, because it's all a money game. A $51 billion corporation crime bill racket that they made. So it's bad. You in Texas, right?
I am in Texas, yeah.
It's very bad out there in Texas.
Pretty bad. I think the only thing we have going for us is we have caps on child support. And if you recall the Chris Brown, remember Chris Brown a few years ago? Yeah. He was in California, but his baby mama was in here in Houston. Yeah. Basically, no matter how many millions of dollars he makes every year, he's still capped out at a certain amount, which is $8,000,
I believe. He only paid.
Yeah, I think it's less than that, but he's still capped out at that amount. And so, that's why she fought to have this. Yeah, right. Because it doesn't take $40,000 a month to raise a child. That's just ridiculous. And these judges and these politicians, they need to stop being so beholden to these women's rights organizations, because it's just unfair, and it's causing for men not to want to even get married nor have children. That's why we have, at least in the Black community, 51% of Black men don't have children and aren't married.
Now, they don't talk about that, because when you say that, they call you lies. And I tell people 51% of men do not have kids.
And that's Black men, 51% of Black men.
But they say that 51% of Black men are deadbeats, paying child support. That's false.
And see, that's not true. That's not true either, because there's only, here's the statistics are 72% of African American women have children out of wedlock. All right, 31% of Black men are married and live with their wives. Yeah. So that means that's 82% off the board. So you only have about 18%, give or take, how it is. Yeah. 18% of Black men who have children and aren't married. So out of that group of deadbeats, you can't say a man who's married and a man who doesn't have children is a deadbeat. That's a stretch. So it's only that 18% that has impregnated that 72%, give and take a little bit. So the question is, why is that 72% still going to that 18% to have children repeatedly?
Dennis Berlin. I'm not a lawyer, but my daddy is.
Yeah, if you've been hurt in a car accident, call my daddy.
No need to scream and yell like a little kid.
Yeah, no,
My daddy will fight for your rights.
yeah, fight for your rights.
If you've been involved in a car accident, call my daddy, Attorney Dennis Berlin.
Hello, I'm attorney Dennis Berlin. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call me at 713-229-0770.
Call my daddy, daddy.
I want to talk a little bit more about these prenup, these terms. Now, let's say, for instance, a lot of dudes think a prenup should work in their mind. If she leave me, she don't get nothing, even if we've been married for 30 years. But prenups kind of work differently. If you've been married, it has to be equitable. You can't stay married to some woman for 20 years and then you just send her out and she goes back to nothing. That's not going to be something that the judge is going to deem conscionable. But if you say, let's say, for instance, in the Janet Jackson case, this billionaire says, okay, if you stay married to me for 5 years, I will give you $500 million. And, and if you have a baby, I'll pay you, maybe another $50 million, whatever. And that's exactly what happened. And what Janet Jackson did, she stayed married to that man exactly 5 years and 2 months. Yeah. And then she got a divorce. And so when you look at it like this, it's almost like she was renting her time to this man.
Yes. Yes.
So tell us about some more. Can you put a clause? You tell me your thoughts. Can you put a clause in your contract of your prenuptial agreement saying if you have to maintain a certain weight limit, you have to cook, clean? What are your thoughts on those sort of things? Aside from, you stay married for 5 years, right? We get that term. That's hard. That's fixed. That's understandable. But some of that other stuff seems kind of mushy and opinionated. What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. And to the extent that you try to put these things in, a judge will absolutely try to throw them out. And you run the risk of having your whole prenup invalidated. When you've got some bad terms in a prenup, the judge has two options. The judge can try to cut those bad terms out and then still keep the prenup. Or the judge can say, you know what, because of these bad terms, I'm going to throw the whole prenup out. And so a lot of people try to say, hey, well, if we have kids, then I'm going to get 50% custody. Or if we have kids, then I'm only going to pay $100 in child support per month, right? Mm-hmm. Or like you say, you put on weight limits. So, you can't weigh over 165 pounds throughout the duration of our, 20-year marriage. Or, if you cheat on me, then you only get $30, something like that. And if you put these clauses in, a judge will absolutely take them out, and you're risking your whole prenup getting thrown out. In fact, there's nothing wrong with putting in your prenup like Janet Jackson's. If you, because this is actually common here in Atlanta, especially with men who have money and they're not really sure why the woman is with them. So what I'll do, for example, if I'm getting married, I say, okay, if you're with me, if we get married and you're with me from 0 to 5 years,
and you're gonna leave it very home. We got a heckler in here. So Lucy Adams says, it's funny how you didn't want to have this conversation when Dr. Dre's bottom chef Becky tried to milk him for $2 million a month. She was black. What are you talking about? That woman was black and she was a lawyer. You need to get your facts straight. Lucy Adams, if that's your real name, don't come in here with that, okay? I have not had my cup of coffee and I will lean on you. Okay, don't play that game with me. But I want to ask you another question.
Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App. Make sure you contribute to the PayPal. Make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
I get a lot of hecklers in here, man. They want to come in and get all that anger and frustration. One thing I want to also ask you, the attorney, is I often see when these lovely ladies, they will call the police on you. And I try to explain to people, it's not that you've actually done anything. It's what they're trying to do is create a record, a criminal record or some sort of police contact record. So then they could give that to their lawyer and run down to the court and say,
he's a bad parent or he's abusive, therefore I want the kids, or put him out the house. Because typically what happens is, after the divorce, the date of the divorce, whatever is going on at that time is what's going to be maintained. So if she can get you put out the house on the temporary restraining order, and it stays, or she can prove that you're violent, or even just allegations, the judge is not going to risk their career putting you in that house and believing you. So those allegations go a long way just to get you, removing you from the house. So now she has possession of the house, she has custody of the kids, and the judge is pretty much going to treat it like that. A lot of lawyers won't tell you that the reason she's doing that is because it gives her an advantage. It's so bad here in this state, the district attorneys and the ADAs they got a special group of people to sniff out false domestic violence charges and false child charge. One of the first questions they ask, are you currently embroiled in a child custody matter or a divorce? Because they know these ladies lie about that to try to get an advantage. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, y'all are even better than Atlanta, because in Georgia, it's even more serious in terms of how women get away with this stuff. A woman doesn't even need to call the cops. You know, you can file your divorce against your wife, right, on Monday, and she gets served on Monday morning. On Monday afternoon, what she does is she goes to the courthouse and she talks to one of the designated sitting judges that are there, you know, just on duty, right? Yeah. One of these duty judges. And she says, oh, you know, well, he's threatened me in the past and I'm scared of him because he's 6'3" and I'm only 5'2". And he threatened me that one time. And then 2 years ago, he pushed me. And what the judge is going to do is give her a temporary, ex parte, temporary restraining order. The judge never talked to you. And it's already given her an order stating that you have to move out. So then the judge is going to file that with the clerk and is going to give that to a sheriff's deputy. And the deputy is going to drive to your job and pull you out of your job and say, listen, I'm taking you to your home. You've got 15 minutes under my supervision to get all of your clothes and get out. Don't take any furniture. Don't take the Xbox. Don't take the kids. Don't take the food that's in the fridge. Don't take your TV, nothing. I don't care whether you go to the brother's house. I don't care whether you go to the Motel 6. You got 15 minutes to take your clothes.
What's up? What's up? Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Dennis Sperling, and I'm back, and I am turned all the way up because we're going to talk about a subject that is well overdue. Now, a lot of you guys have been with me for about 1.5 years, and you know, the thing that I actually enjoy doing is I actually enjoy talking about Black history. It's something that I've always enjoyed, and because I have a very good understanding of Black American history, there's not a whole lot you can do. It's not a whole lot that you can tell me about Black folks that's going to make me feel bad about us. You can say a lot. You can say what you want to say, but at the end of the day, we are some of the hardest fighting, dedicated people in this country. We are some of the we laid the foundation for this country. We fought for and against the United States for our freedom. And so because of that, it's just going to be really difficult. Now, what I find is this, because a lot of you, there's a lot of issues going on. But you know, before I get started, big shout out to my man, John Thomas. Thank you so much. New member, Joe. What's happening, Joe? Welcome to the show. Thank you for being a member. I appreciate you. And let me see, I'm pulling up some stuff right now because, you know, got to get this thing cracking. But hold on 1 minute. Hit the number 1 button, check in. Let me know where you're checking in from. Who's in the house? Is New York in the house? East Coast, West Coast, overseas? We got UK. Who's here? Who's here today? Let me know who is here today. Huh? Go ahead and do that now. I want to see, hit the number 1 button if you can hear me. If you guys can hear me, hit the number 1 button. I don't see no responses. I see John Thomas. He said, good afternoon to the chat. Hit the number 1 button if you can. All right, there we go. We see Dallas, Texas, New York. All right, where else we checking in from, fellas? Let me know. Long Island. All right, Nueva York is deep. Birmingham, Alabama. Boy, I had a good time in Birmingham, Alabama. I messed around and went out there for a Thanksgiving when I was in law school with a friend of mine. And so it was cold in the morning. So I'm sitting there by the porch. It's nice and cool. Next thing I know, that Alabama sun rose up. And I was like, sweet Jesus, let me get out of this goddamn sweater. But yeah, big shout out to Alabama. I got some great friends in Alabama. Love Alabama. Love visiting Alabama. Beautiful people in Alabama. And I say, who else we got here? Atlanta, A-Town. Who else? Birmingham. Another shout out to Alabama. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's what's happening. Let me see who else we got. Hit the number 1 button, fellas. I want you guys to show your appreciation by hitting the number 1 button. That's what I want you to do. Hit that number 1 button. Go ahead and do that in Jacksonville. Hey, we're going to talk about Jacksonville today. Jacksonville, North Florida. Stay here. You're going to learn a lot about the history of North Florida today. Okay? North Florida is a special place. I want you to remember that. South Georgia, North Florida. South Carolina, North Carolina. Some of the hardest hitting black folks in America, before America was even America, came from those areas, that southeast corridor. Big shout out to them. Where all the Geechees at? Huh? Where they at? That's what I want to know. Shout out to all the Geechee people. But either way, look, hit the number 1 button, Madisonville. All right, so this is what we're going to do, fellas. And I know lately, a lot of people mad at Uncle D because I'm being the uncle that I'm supposed to be. If I didn't love you, I'd just tell you what you wanted to hear, right? That's what they mostly do. They coddle to you. They tell you what they want to hear. They allow you just sit here in misery for a couple of hours, get your fix on, make you feel like it's nothing wrong, nothing you can do about it, powerless. That's not what we do on this page. What did I tell you guys I do on this page? Off top. We empower black men on this page. Off top. I've been telling you that from day one. I'm going to defend you against outsiders, but when it comes down to it, I'm going to hold you accountable. My obligation is to make you brothers the best men you can be. If you with that, hit the W. If you're with that, hit the W. A lot of you brothers say, well, what about mentorship? This is mentorship. Instilling pride in you and who you are. I'm so sick and tired of people talking stuff about Black Americans. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people from overseas who are Black themselves talking reckless about Black men and Black women, saying things like, oh, they're descendants of slaves. We're descendants of warriors. What about that? Oh, they was cotton pickers. We was also killers. What about that? Let's talk about that. See, that's the part of our history that everybody seems to overlook. All the freedom fighting that we did on our own to liberate ourselves. See, when it comes to who's going to liberate us, it was us liberating us. White Zaddy is not coming to free you. He never has been willing to do that. Zaddy don't care. Zaddy want to keep you right there underfoot. That's right, Pookie must go. And that Pookie mentality must go. Specifically that predator Pookie. That's who needs to go. But that's another subject. We'll deal with that this week too. I ain't let up off of them. But all of that is part and parcel of what we need to do. And a lot of you dudes, you call this elitist. Some of y'all saying, oh, well, your adopted father was a lawyer. He lived in Texas. I lived in South Central LA. I love my adopted father. I appreciate everything he did. But that didn't stop them bullets from flying and them gangsters from hitting me up. That didn't help me when I was on that RTD bus, that 204, trying to get to Slauson in Vermont from Manual Arts High School back in the 80s. That didn't stop that helicopter from flying over at night. Some of these people call this class warfare. Why? Because they copped out. Because if they call it class warfare, then what it allows them to do is saying, oh, he's just picking on us. If they say, oh, his dad was a lawyer, he grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, I don't know how you do that and graduate from Manual Arts High School off of King Boulevard in Vermont. I don't know how you do that when you graduate from John Muir Elementary School over off of Vermont and 60th Street in the heart of South Central. Bottom line is, it's their way of being able to dismiss what I'm saying. See, the unfortunate part is I'm one of you. I'm as hood as you are. I'm just a hood dude with some degrees. But I love you enough to come back and talk to you. So you should appreciate this talking to. Because see, most of the brothers, they had them a white woman and moved on. That's what they do. They get them a fine white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they move on. But I'm still here with you. And the truth is, I enjoy whipping y'all asses. Trust me. I take great pleasure in whipping you black men into shape because I love it. And you're going to love me for it. You might hate me now. But just like any other father will tell you, I'm not your friend. I'm here to make you the best man you can be. And after that, you'll respect me. And you'll respect yourselves. Period. That's what we're doing here. This is a labor of love. On top of that, I'm giving you ammunition to get them up off you when they disrespect our ancestors. And that goes for our African brothers and sisters, our West Indian brothers and sisters. They didn't fight harder than us. We've been fighting the white man since we got here. And I'm going to prove it to you. But here's the thing I want you to kick back. Shout out to my man, Trey D. Shout out to my man, Trey D. Thank you so much for that super chat. And y'all been light on the Cash App, but that's okay. It's Black History Month, man. And so we're going to talk about some Black history. So when I talk about black men standing up or being men, many, not all, but many complain about how difficult it is under the system of white supremacy racism. Woe is me. It's too hard. That's what they say. White zaddy won't give us our freedom. That's what I hear. They're literally, think about this. You're literally waiting around for the descendants of your oppressors to tell you that it's okay to fight against them and do what's in your own best interest. Here's another trick they use. They try to escape my challenge of them being the best men they can be by asking me, what's my plan? As though I'm their leader. See, I'm not your leader. I'm a pathfinder. All I want you to do is be the best man that you can be. See, when it gets painful, men try to find reasons to stop that pain. Unfortunately, it's become insurmountable to avoid it. You have 62% of black men who have reached the middle class by the time they are middle age. So what does that mean? That means there's more of us than it is of them. This ain't 1960. That old rhetoric doesn't work. That talented 10th foolishness doesn't work. We are all the talented 10th at this point. We're the richest group of Africans on this planet. You can no longer say it's just the talented 10th when you got 60% of black men in the middle class. What the hell does that tell you? Whether you're a plumber, electrician, construction worker, truck driver, engineer, hell, a shopping cart manufacturer. You making money now. And some of you said, well, middle class, they got, yeah, $41,000, $42,000. That's more than our ancestors made. That's more than our ancestors made. And we're not working as hard as our ancestors. See, the problem, brothers, the problem is not education. The problem is not class warfare. The problem is you don't think that you can do it because you don't know what your ancestors had overcome, because nobody has ever taught you that. You think you have a track record of losing and slavery when actually you have a track record of warfare and freedom fighting. But see, as it is right now, because you've been separated from your ancestors and the truth, you're waiting around for a savior. You black men are literally waiting around for a savior that is never going to come. And what do we say here in the manosphere? And I guess I've been put out the manosphere. I never thought I was in the manosphere. I was drafted into the manosphere. I told them early on, I don't conform with what you brothers say now. I believe in having children and having legacy and being family men. I don't like the way the laws are set up. But the last thing I want you to do is spend your entire life on this earth by yourself. That's not me. Okay, so I don't. You drafted me into the manosphere, and now you got to deal with me. I didn't really think I was part of that. Black manosphere, white manosphere. I love the red pills. I appreciate the reality and being able to talk to men who can accept female nature and all that stuff. But the reality is, I was never part of that. But I love you, brothers, and you still my brothers. But I do see that knowledge as key to unlocking other doors. And one of the doors I'm going to use that very same knowledge to help you see the bigger picture. What am I talking about? You black men always talk about save yourself, black men. Save yourself, black men. What the hell does that mean if it don't mean save yourself? Save yourself from what? You want to save yourself from these divorce laws? Great. You get a passport. Well, let's save yourself from waiting around for a savior. Because that's just wasting your time. Get the likes up, man. Hit the #1 button. Let me know you appreciate this. This is what I want y'all to do. Hit the W button for the ancestors. That's what I want you to do. We never waited around for a savior. We always sought to save ourselves. What we're going to talk about today is the Gullah Wars and the Black Seminole Wars. Our ancestors here in the United States waged wars in the name of freedom that make the Haitian Revolution look like a fruit fight in an all-girls middle school. They're boastful, and then you got these boastful white men. Let me show you what this white man said, man. You got boastful white men who think that the Civil War waged by white men from the North against white men from the South was fought to free blacks, when in fact slavery was legal in both the North and the South. White men fought each other to preserve the Union. The Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Lincoln freed the slaves that were in the South, which had seceded from the North. It didn't even free the slaves in the North. Okay, it didn't do that. Okay, so if you had a slave and your state didn't secede, you didn't lose your slaves. Slavery was still legal. It didn't become illegal till the 13th Amendment made slavery legal everywhere in the United States. However, that ass kicking that our black men, our African men coming out of Florida were given Georgia and South Carolina, and the U.S. Army was the catalyst for our freedom. They had to let us go because it was costing the white men too much money, the United States government too much money and blood and treasure to hold on to us. But see, there's still fools, both here and abroad, both foreign and domestic, black men, white men, and others, right? Otherwise, who think for the past 402 years, black men, black Africans have been enslaved in this country, that we were compliant and happy servants to our oppressors. These same fools have referred to our black ancestors as kakas, which is some sort of African word that means slave or a slave ancestor, a slave descendant. And in actuality, we weren't kakas, we were killers. They ignorantly concluded that we beg. I had a brother come on here, a Haitian brother come on here and said we beg for everything the white society gave us, as opposed to the truth that we fought some of the bloodiest battles against the United States government and caused them so much bloodshed that they offered terms of peace. They let us live in peace. And it's these same idiots that assumed that all of us were slaves when in fact we were warriors of freedom, ever fighting for our way to freedom. And here's another thing. In the first fight, in the fight against white supremacy racism in North America, Black Americans have fought hundreds of battles and caused much bloodshed on both sides. So let's revisit our Black American ancestors and the ass kicking and stabbing and shooting and throat slitting fight for freedom that history refuses to discuss. We are a noble people. We are a hard fighting people. Our ancestors fought and fought and fought so that we could be in the position that we are in today. And they are the ones who brought slavery to an end because it was too hard to hold us. Hit the W button for the ancestors right now. Let's give it up for the ancestors right now. Go ahead and do that right now. Hit a W for the ancestors because they went in for the win. It made it so difficult. Now I want to share a video with you guys. I want you to see, this is the prevailing thought. And I know you guys know there's some Black folks out there right now. They swear up that Black Americans was just old slaves, didn't do anything and didn't fight nobody, and the white man just gave us our freedom because he just felt sorry for us. Did y'all remember that? Y'all heard all the time. I was listening to O'Shea Duke Jackson, and you had some African brothers in Europe. You had some African brothers in overseas in the UK and sisters telling each other, don't date our West Indian brothers and sisters because they're descendants of slaves. They fought their ass off too. Let's not forget that. See, we fought like the devil with an axe in his hand. You keep that in mind. Let me pull this screen up. I want you to hear the prevailing thoughts. I want you to see what they say. Let me try to pull this up, man, to get this screen straight. All right. So this is a white man on TikTok right here, right? Now, see, it's the ignorant ones that don't know, like this cat right here. Let's take it. Let me know if you can hear it.
Right now, if it wasn't for white people fighting.
Let me know if you can hear it.
People, Africans, Black, whatever.
So first off, if you heard the white guy, now I don't know where y'all couldn't hear the sound at all. It was muted. Nobody heard the sound. All right, I want to make sure you hear what this cat is saying. Okay. But this is the ignorance that we have to deal with. All right. This is the supreme ignorance. And this is what happens. This is when you let them get away with this history. Right. This is what white supremacy has done to white men. Listen to this again.
Dark-skinned people, Africans, Black, whatever, would still be enslaved in the U.S. right now if it wasn't for white people fighting to break free the slaves from slavery. They were beaten, imprisoned, and even killed. Hell, there was even an entire war fought over freeing the slaves. A war fought by light-skinned people next to African. Let's not forget, however bad you think Africans have it here, if you actually do any research at all on Africa as a whole, the country itself, yeah, they're being killed by their own people.
For the longest.
All right, so basically, family, did you hear what the white boy saying? First of all, he refers to Africa as a country, and in actuality, it's a country, it's a continent with over 50 different countries. Right? Here's another thing: when they talking about Africa, they always think about it from those Tarzan movie perspective, where you got American producers making it seem like all the Africans are running around with bones in their nose, butt naked, eating each other, which is furthest from the truth. What about the Songhai Empire, the Mali Empire? You guys, just 100 years before slavery started, Mansa Musa traveled from the Mali Empire all the way over to Mecca and gave away gold. Took 2 years, upset the whole goddamn gold system, the monetary system. We talked about that. You understand what I'm saying? So you cannot allow these racists among you to just disparage our ancestors like that. Our African ancestors and our Black American ancestors, they always get it wrong. When white men do Black history, they always get it wrong because they're looking at it through a lens of white supremacy and prejudice. Remember that. Let's start with that thing. Now, the thing is, white supremacy, we always talk about it, but we never talk about the effect of Black inferiority on the Black mind. And that's what we're dealing with right now. You got Black men who just don't believe in themselves. They no matter what, you can tell them, oh man, we've been kicking butt for years, man. They just will refuse to believe you. And so that's why I have to shove it in your face. I grew up with this. You can't tell me nothing bad about Black people. I know my people. I know what my people have accomplished. I'm not trying to hear what you're trying to say. That's why I have so much pride in being a Black man. That's why I instill pride in my sons and being Black men. My sons understand that we come from a warrior culture. We wasn't butt naked in Africa running around eating each other. That's not what we was doing. That wasn't that. And so what we have to do is continue to change the narrative. My words, my message has been consistent. We must change the narrative. And that's right, my man, Autobot Jasmine 98, Great Zimbabwe, Kush. We can't forget Kush and Nubia. We can't forget those great empires that predated everything that's ever been in Europe. We can't forget that. And so we must constantly remind others and ourselves, because you got the problem of white supremacy and you have the problem of Black inferiority. Those are the things that we have to deal with. And so what I'm going to do for you folks, you brothers, is let's talk about what we did. Let's get rid of this lie. Okay? First of all, get the likes up, hit the #1 button. I want you guys to make sure you do that. Hit the #1 button right now. And I've given you all these messages before. I've told you this stuff before. Y'all know I've been here talking about this. We talked about reparations. We talked about Mansa Musa. We talked about all these great African kings. I've talked about this with you guys before. So on this page, you got to understand, we are changing the narrative on this page. For there's been hundreds and hundreds of rebellions in America. That's what you got to understand. From the moment our people landed in this country in shackles, right, we were fighting, not knowing where we were. You may not even spoke the same language of a person next to you. Whatever, it didn't matter. As soon as we landed, we did what? We had people who took control of ships and tried to steer them to go back to Africa. Some chose to die en masse rather than risk bondage. So don't ever let these white supremacists, right, and their delusional mindset manipulate yours. We've always fought. There's over 160 documented uprisings. You understand me? That's damn near 1 every 3 years. Can you imagine fighting a battle or war every 3 years in the United States on this territory? Imagine if there was a George Floyd style riot every 3 years in the United States. We've always tried to do our best to stand up and stand together. We've always done that. And they're not going to teach you this in school. Now, I'm not doing this to bash any group of people. I'm not doing any, I'm doing this so my people will know their true history. You black men have always stood up, black women too. We've always stood up and fought against our oppression. Not at no time did we lay down. And see, the thing you got to understand, why would they even teach you the truth? Why do you think teaching you an accurate history is that's the hill that suburban America is willing to, white America is willing to die on? They don't want to teach you your truth. The next thing, you might start standing up. If you knew what your ancestors did, most of you all don't have the time to look into history. You didn't go, you don't do it. You just don't have the time. Even though half the stuff you're looking at is right in Wikipedia at this point. Now, if we truly understood not just the atrocities of enslavement, but the resilience and the sheer collective power of the uprisings against it, we would understand far more about ourselves. You see, it's not that they don't know. It's not that the dominant society doesn't know. They just won't talk about it. Why would you talk about that? And put ideas in you black men and women's heads. We should be grateful for those that fought for our freedom. When that's what we should be grateful for. Not looking down on them because they were slaves. You understand? It's like, you just have to understand, family, that it's important for you to know what your people did so that you can have pride in them. And so let's just go ahead and get into it. I want to talk about a couple of revolutions, if you want to call it, in New York. Now, we can go as far back as to the New York slave revolt in 1912. I'm going to pull this up. I want y'all to see. This is real stuff. Hit the number 1 button for the ancestors, man. And I'm guilty of this too. One of the most horrible things we could say is that we're not our ancestors. Because our ancestors fought. They was forever plotting and planning on how to get themselves free. Hopefully we are our ancestors, family. Hopefully we are. But I want y'all to check this out. This is 1912, okay? So I'm pulling this up, and this is right here on the internet. This is right here on Wikipedia. You see, they're not hiding the information. So let's check this out. Are you with me? Hit the W button if you're with me. I'm pulling it up because I want y'all to see that Uncle D is not making this up, man. This is our real history, man. So the New York slave revolt of 1712. The New York slave revolt of 1712 was an uprising in New York in the province of New York. About 23 enslaved Africans. The first thing you understand is, damn, New York, they had slaves in New York? Yes. They had African slaves everywhere. Plenty of them. And you're going to learn a lot today. A lot of white boys will say, well, yeah, we built the cities in the north, assuming that all the African slaves were in the south. No. We were in the north, the south, anywhere you can bring an African person to do your work for you. You understand? They think we just migrated there in the 1920s and 30s in what is called the Great Migration, which is truly a misnomer. Because the truth is we started off in New York, Baltimore, New York, Maryland, Virginia, and those places. And then as the country grew, we spread out. But in reality, we were already there. Virginia had was one of the most populous states for black people anyway. And that's right there, New York is right there. But anyway, these Africans, these 23 enslaved Africans, killed 9 whites and injured another 6 before they were stopped. More than 70 black people were arrested in jail. And of these, 27 were put on trial and 21 convicted and executed. By the early 18th century, New York had one of the largest enslaved populations of any settlements in the 13 colonies. So we've been in New York. We've been there. We weren't all down south. Some of y'all that's in New York right now, you Africans, your people been there for the past 300 years and some change. You understand? So slavery in the city different from some of the other colonies because there were no plantations producing cash crops like tobacco and cotton. Slaves worked as domestic servants, dock workers, and various skilled labor. Plantations down there, they had you doing domestic work and working at the dock and, you know, being blacksmiths and stuff like that. All right. Enslaved, anywhere there was some work to be done, it was a black man or a black woman found to do it. White folks were some of the laziest people that here in the country. They were just lazy as hell. They didn't have really any skill sets at all. They had Africans doing all their work for them, black folks doing all their work for them. Right? This is what we're dealing with. Enslaved Africans lived near each other, making communication easy. They also often worked among free black people in a situation that did not exist on most southern plantations. On most southern plantations, it didn't exist. But in Charleston, South Carolina, there was a whole lot of free blacks down there. You understand me? But now you got enslaved black people and free black people getting together like, man, you need to get free. And I'm sure there's a lot of slaves saying stuff like, well, we can't be free. Ain't nothing. Some of the same things some of y'all telling me. I'm telling you, man, get out there and conquer the world, man. See what's out there. You said, we can't do it. That's the same mentality. Just like you got these free blacks say, hey, man, get free, bro. You know, hell, just run, you know, blah, blah. And they're like, I can't do it. I got to stay here and keep washing masters' floors. It's hard to speak to somebody like that who allows himself to be conquered. Remember, we're talking about white supremacy and also black inferiority. This is not elitism. This is the brainwashing and the sight game that's been put upon you. Slaves in the city would communicate and plan a conspiracy more easily than among those on plantations. After the seizure of New Netherland in 1667, its incorporation into the province of New York, the rights of free Negro social group were gradually eroded. So guess what happened? They started trying to take their goddamn rights away. Like you free, and then you start taking our rights away. So it wasn't all the time slavery. Remember, slavery white slavery didn't exist like that the whole time in this country. It was something that came about because they had to figure out a way to keep the black slave population enslaved. They didn't want folks mixing, so they start coming up with all those lies. Now, we talking about as early as what? 1712. We've been fighting, okay? As early, and it's some before that, okay? So what happened? By the early 1700s, about 20% of the population were enslaved black people. The colonial government in New York restricted the group through several measures, requiring slaves to carry a pass if traveling more than a mile from home, discouraging marriage among them, prohibiting gatherings in groups of more than 3 persons, requiring them to sit in separate galleries at church. A group of more than 20 black slaves gathered on the night of April 6, 1712, and set fire to a building on Maiden Lane near Broadway. While the white colonists tried to put out the fire, the enslaved blacks, armed with guns, hatchets, and swords, attacked the whites and then ran off. Almost immediately, all the runaway slaves were captured and returned to their owners. So you see that? This is in New York City. Look at that. Yeah. They gathered up guns, hatchets, swords, and they attacked them white folks. Think about that, man. 1712. No cell phones, no iPhones, no nothing. Right? Let's talk about another. You guys familiar with Stoner Rebellion? The Stoner Rebellion? Let me know if you're familiar with the Stoner Rebellion. You should be. Who's familiar with the Stoner Rebellion? South Carolina. There's some tough suckers. There's some tough black folks in South Carolina, man. Don't let nobody convince you that South Carolina, we're going to talk about it. So let's pull this up. Take a look. And see, a lot of times they hide the history. They call stuff rebellions, you know? They call it conspiracies. Remember that. So this is some pictures of Stoner Rebellion right here. The Stoner Rebellion, also known as Cato's Conspiracy or Cato's Rebellion, was a slave revolt that began on the 9th of September, 1739, in the colony of South Carolina. It was the largest slave rebellion in the southern colonies, with 25 colonists and 35 to 50 Africans killed. The uprising was led by Native Africans who were likely from Central African Kingdom of Congo, as the rebels were Catholic and some spoke Portuguese. Let me explain what's happening here, man. So you're putting anybody on the boat you can catch. Okay. So along with farmers, you got warriors on the boat who know what freedom is like and will rather die than allow you to enslave them. So they're on the boat. They might not be able to speak English. They might not even be able to communicate. But in some cases they have. Because remember what I told you. Remember when we talked about the deal that the King of the Congo had with Portugal? Remember we talked about that? So these men in the Congo, these Black Africans in the Central Kingdom of the Congo, many of them spoke Portuguese. Many of them had Portuguese surnames. A lot of the aristocracy from Congo would go to Portugal, get education, and come back to the Congo. I talked about that, man. So they were very familiar with white folks. So when you go from the Congo, you're Catholic, you speak Portuguese, you're not afraid of these white folks like that. Here's the thing. The leader of the rebellion, Jimmy, was a literate slave. No, he was a literate man, right? Literate meaning he spoke languages and could read because he probably learned it where he was from. In some reports, however, he is referred to as Cato, and likely was held by Cato or Cater family, who lived near Ashley River in the north of Stono River. He led 20 other enslaved Congolese. So these are all people from the Congo who may have been former soldiers in an armed march south from Stono River. So basically, they're saying these Congolese men that you stole and put on the boat and brought them to America were actually former soldiers in Congo. What do you expect them to do? And they were bound for Spanish Florida, where successive proclamations had promised freedom for fugitive slaves from the British North America. So at that time, Spain occupied Florida, and British North America started around about Georgia. Georgia was originally designed to be an all-white enclave. It was an all-white, check this out. It was an all-white state meant to be a buffer between Florida and the rest of the United States. Because see, what would happen is them brothers would come up out of Spain. They would come up out of the Spanish territory, North Florida, which I mentioned we was going to talk about. They would free slaves and bring them back to Florida. Come on back. You good. We got our own enclaves down here. Spain had a different thing. It didn't matter if you was black or white, if you was in the Spanish territory. You just had to be Catholic. The white Europeans from Northern Europe, i.e. the UK, Great Britain, they said, no, you got to be white. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic or Protestant, whatever, you got to be white. Just as long as you white, you good. We'll give you land. We'll make you aristocracy. You'll be an important person. But as far as Spain was concerned, you had to be Catholic. You see? Because remember, they just got through dealing with the Moors. They don't want no more parts of them Muslims. No. Being black, no, you got to be a Catholic now. So that was a different thing they had. And that's why America expanded like it did. Because remember, at that time, Spain was more powerful than Great Britain. Great Britain was just some little backwater island somewhere. Spain had all the riches. They had the money. They had the information. They was good. But they were able to expand faster because they allowed more people in their group to come in. They said, all you got to do is be as white. You could be white, Scottish, Protestant. We don't care. As long as you're white, you're good. But as far as Spain, you had to be Catholic. So that means, what did that do? That eliminated the Jewish people. the Protestants, all of that, they had to go. You see, the Baptists, so they limited who they brought in. You see, but these Africans, what are these 20 soldiers? They was headed for Spain. Jimmy and his group recruited nearly 60 other slaves, 60 other Africans or enslaved Africans, and killed more than 20 whites before being intercepted and defeated by the South Carolina militia near Edisto River. Survivors traveled another 30 miles before the militia finally defeated them a week later. Most of the captured enslaved were executed. The surviving few were sold to markets in the West Indies. In response to the rebellion, the General Assembly passed the Negro Act of 1740, which restricted slaves' freedoms but improved working conditions and placed a moratorium on importing new slaves. You see that? What is that telling you? We have got to get this on. Stop bringing them Negroes over here. Just cut it out. And matter of fact, when you start killing people and slitting their throats, that's when you get change, and that's when you got change back then. That's basically what happened. We were fighting from the time we got there. And I talked about you had a New York rebellion in 1712. You turn right around ahead, they had another one in 1714. You understand what I'm saying? It was plenty of fighting going on. All right. Another one in 1741. All right. Right now, we just at Stono's Rebellion. All right. Portuguese, a little bit more information. Jimmy, the leader of the revolt. Oh, let me see. Portuguese was the language of trade as well as one of the languages of educated people in the Congo. This is what I was telling you. The Portuguese-speaking slaves in South Carolina were more likely to have learned about offers of freedom by Spanish agents. They would also have been attracted to the Catholicism of the Spanish Florida. In the early 18th century, Congo had been undergoing civil wars, leading to more people being captured, sold into slavery, including trained soldiers. It is likely that Jimmy and his rebel cohort were such military men as they fought hard against the militia when they were caught and were able to kill 20 men. Here's what you got to understand, man. They started wars in the Congo just so they could have a reason to go get slaves. The whole point of the war was so that they could take people and bring them in to sell them to the Europeans and take them to North America, South America, Central America, and the Congo. A lot of y'all misunderstand history. You know what you say? You say, oh, these people were prisoners of wars. That's how they got sold into slavery. No, you dummies. They started the war so that they can have a reason to imprison the people. You understand that? It's not like we fighting over anything significant. No, we gonna make a war up so that we can go over there and steal you. Same thing that we did as far as Iraq. Remember when we said there's weapons of mass destruction, and then we picked a fight with Saddam Hussein and then went over there to take all his oil? Y'all remember that? Still getting oil from that. You know how this goes. Find a reason, pick a fight so that you can go put these Negroes in slavery, right? So that's the Stoner Rebellion. Y'all remember that? Okay? Remember that? Okay? Don't let them tell you we laid down and we didn't fight. Don't you let them tell you that. Yeah, manufactured wars. That's exactly right. Get the likes up, man. Hit the #1 button if you appreciate this history lesson. You brothers are gonna stand up. By the time I get through with you brothers, you're gonna be willing to stand up. You're gonna realize what your ancestors did. Let's move on. The New York City conspiracy. This was a whole goddamn slave rebellion, but they call it a conspiracy. This is how they hide it. Okay? This is how they hide your history, right? So the conspiracy of 1741, also known as the slave insurrection of 1741, was reported a plot by slaves and poor whites, here we go, in the British colony of New York in 1741 to revolt and level New York City with a series of fires. Historians disagree as to such a plot existed, if there was one, in scales during the court cases. The prosecution kept changing the grounds of accusation, ending with linking insurrection to popish plot by Spaniards and other Catholics. In 1741, Manhattan had the second largest slave population of any city in the 13 colonies, after Charleston, South Carolina. I brought that up before I explained y'all. Charleston, South Carolina was popping, man. All right. Rumors of conspiracy arose against a background of economic competition between poor whites and slaves. A severe winter war between Britain and Spain, with heightened anti-Catholic, anti-Spanish feelings. And the recent shout out to my man Paul the Baptiste. I appreciate you, brother. He said in March 1741, a series of 13 fires erupted in Lower Manhattan, and most significant one within the walls of Fort George, then home of the governor. They tried to kill the goddamn governor. After another fire at the warehouse, a slave was arrested after having been seen fleeing. As a 16-year-old Irish indentured servant, Mary Burton, arrested in a case of stolen goods, testified against others as participants in a supposedly growing conspiracy of poor whites and blacks to burn the city, kill the white men, take the white women for themselves, and elect a new king and governor. So here's what you got to understand, man. So white folks was catching hell back then, right? These Irish, they was catching hell, they was getting whooped on. And so what ended up happening was, the black folks, they used to hang out at the wharf in the little poor sections of town, right? And they got together and they said, well, we need to kill all these white men, take these women for ourselves. You see what I mean? This is what happened. And so after this, you'll start noticing they start putting laws in place and giving white folks a few more trinkets over and above what the black folks were getting, right? So let's check it out. In the spirit of 1741, fear gripped Manhattan as fires burned across all the inhabited areas of the island. The suspected culprits included hundreds of New York slaves. Again, you got all these black people in New York already. Okay, you've been there. So you helped build New York. You were there when the white folks were there. So when these white folks from Italy and these different places, and I heard this white boy, this Italian dude, get on Tariq Nasheed's show and say that Italians helped build New York. We were already there before the Italians even showed up. We was already there. Okay, it's in the history book. So he's doing one of those revisionist history things. So anyway, let's get back to it. Are y'all all right? Hit the number 1 button if y'all all right. Let me know you appreciate this, man. Let me know if you can hear, you appreciate what I'm doing, man. All right. So let's check it out. The suspected culprits included hundreds of New York slaves, free blacks, and lower class whites, 172 of whom were arrested and tried for conspiracy to burn the town and murder its white inhabitants. What they mean is rich white inhabitants. That's why the rich don't want poor black people and poor white folks to get together. They don't want that to happen at all. That's why they do everything they can to keep you separated. As in the Salem witch trials, sorry about that, you guys. I'm back. Some loitering in my front yard. But anyway, they included 17 black men, two white men, 2 white women who were hanged, as well as 13 black men burnt at the stake. The bodies of 2 supposed ringleaders, Caesar, a slave, and John Hugen, a white cobbler and a tavern keeper, were gibbeted. Their corpses were left to rot in the public. Another 84 men and women faced transportation to brutal conditions of Caribbean slavery. So the way they would punish your ass is they would send you to the Caribbean, because they was really catching hell down there, man. Okay? They were really, the Caribbean, the horrible place to be. The brutal conditions of the Caribbean slavery, while 7 white men were pardoned on condition of entering permanent exile from New York. All right? The Caribbean was a horrible place to be. Okay? They were a horrible place to be. My man J.S. Brown, most whites in the U.S. descended from European immigrants who came over after the Civil War. Waves, and that's exactly right. Ellis Island and all that. But anyway, with increase, so let's so what we're gonna do is, so basically think about this, and I want you to think about this in context. I'm gonna skip down. This was basically a working class conspiracy. All right, this was a working class conspiracy. John Hewson was a poor, illiterate cobbler who came to New York from Yonkers in the mid-1730s with his wife and daughter and mother-in-law. Unable to fight work, he opened a tavern. His neighbors were offended because he sold to clients they considered unsavory. In 1730, some snooty Karens, a bunch of Karens and Kens, didn't like what old John was doing, right? In 1738, I want you to look at this, 1738, right? Hudson opened a new tavern when he moved to the Hudson River waterfront near Trinity Churchyard. It soon became a rendezvous point for slaves. That means black people, poor whites, and free black people, and soldiers. So you got all these people hanging out together, talking. The elite were nervous about such lower class types socializing together. Because why? What happens? What happens when poor folk get together? They eat the rich. Houston's place also was a center of trade and stolen property. He was doing dirt out the back window, doing his thing. City slaves laughingly referred to him as Oswego after the Indian trading post in Lake Ontario. Although the constables watched his place constantly, they failed to watch Hudson for thievery. They failed to catch Hudson for thievery. In February, 2 weeks before the first fire, Hudson was arrested for receiving stolen goods from slaves. Caesar and Prince, who were also jailed. Caesar, Prince, and Kufi were all considered part of the Geneva Club, named after an incident in which they stole Geneva gin. But the bottom line is, family, this is what we were dealing with, okay? All these folks got together. It was led by the African slaves, and they said, we're going to kill all you white. We've been fighting. We've been fighting. And you can't even say it's a white and black thing, because we knew then it was the elite white folks, or at least at that time, before the poor white folks decided that they wanted to cash in on their white people card and do what the rich white folks would do. Okay, that's what happened. Hit the number 1 button. I want to hear what y'all talking about, man. And let's get this. The algorithm hates me, right? We got all these dudes that hate me now because I'm making you realize your ancestors fought back. Your ancestors didn't give you. They didn't say stuff like it's too hard. I can't do it. It's too difficult. You understand what I'm saying? They didn't do. The ancestors didn't say that. Let's talk about another one. All right, so let's rehash. Right? We talked about what? We talked about the New York Slave Revolt of 1712, 1739, 1741. You got another one. Now let's talk about. We're gonna slide forward to Gabriel's conspiracy of 1800. Remember, they hide conspiracy. All right, now this is one that didn't work, but guess what? Let's talk about it. This is happening all the time. Every 2 years, it was some kind of goddamn rebellion going on. Well, black folks stood up and said, we're going to kill y'all for our goddamn freedom. Okay? Now, this is a history lesson that you need to hear. Gabriel's conspiracy was a plan. Let's pull it up. I want to make sure we get it all in. Okay? But we've been at this, family. We've been doing this. Okay? It's not something new. We've been fighting for ourselves. So when these people start telling you, oh, you are slaves, you are kata. Say, no, your asses are slaves in your own goddamn land. That's what you all are. You're slaves in your own land. White folks and Asian folks come over to Africa and take all your stuff. What's going on in Jamaica? The giant Chinese have taken over Jamaica. They building roads from Kingston to Montego Bay and making you pay out the wazoo for it. They're going to own your country. That's what they're doing. But anyway, Gabriel's conspiracy was a plan by enslaved African-American men to attack Richmond and destroy slavery in Virginia. Although thwarted, it remains one of the half dozen most important insurrection plots in history. So not only do you have 160 some odd documented slave revolts, you got dozens and dozens of insurrection plots that were foiled. Named after an enslaved blacksmith who emerged as the most significant leader of the plot, Gabriel's conspiracy originated during the spring and summer of 1800 in Henrico County neighborhood, north of Richmond, and extended primarily across Hanover County into Caroline County and south towards Petersburg. Two slave men betrayed the plot. Two of these snitches. Two slave men betrayed the plot just hours before a torrential rainstorm prevented the conspirators from gathering on the night of August 30th, 1800. So they planned a slave revolt during hurricane season in goddamn Virginia. I get it. In response, Virginia authorities arrested and prosecuted more than 70 enslaved men for insurrection and conspiracy. 26 of those found guilty were hanged. 8 more were transported or sold outside the state, while another suspected conspirator committed suicide before his arraignment. A small number of free blacks were also implicated. One was prosecuted. The alleged involvement of 2 Frenchmen. The alleged involvement of 2 Frenchmen in the plot provided fodder for Federalist attacks on Thomas Jefferson's candidacy for the presidency of that year. Remember, Jefferson's ass was over there in France hanging out with the Frenchies, and some people didn't like that. But anyway, the aborted uprising also provoked refinements in the state's laws at the next meeting of the General Assembly, including the adoption of transportation as an alternative to capital punishment for some slave offenders, and calls for an end to private manumissions and for the deportation of free blacks. In other words, what they said is, we're not going to kill you, we're going to get rid of you. That's the first thing. We're not going to just let you go free, because that's a bad thing too. We don't know what to do with you. And we also going to start deporting y'all and getting y'all the hell out of here. Now that's in 1800. Now we're going to go to this other one. I want to talk. Are you guys familiar? Anybody from New Orleans? Where my New Orleans people at? Where my New Orleans people at, baby? Holla at me. Holla at your boy, bro. Let me urge you, huh? 7th Ward, 9th Ward, Metri, Kenner. Let me hear about you. Down in the down in the parish. Y'all know what that means? You got to be from New Orleans to know what that means, man. So we're going to talk about something called the German Coast Uprising. All right. I want to take a quick break. I'm going to get this queued up. We're going to talk about the German Coast Uprising. Hit the number 1 button if y'all appreciate what we're doing in here. Okay? Hit the number 1 button. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about the German Coast Uprising. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Let me know. I want to hear you here. Hit the number 1 button if you appreciate what I'm doing, man. Go ahead. All right? Hit the number 1 button. We'll be right back.
The ongoing pandemic and its emerging variants have become urgent. Building the most powerful immune system using all natural ingredients is critical. VK Platinum and VK Boost are formulated to deliver a broad spectrum of over 7,000 nutrients, antioxidants, phytonutrients, key amino acids, and active enzymes, including the highest levels of all natural vitamin C, which optimize the cellular capacity to destroy pathogens. And now joining the VK Platinum team includes Flush Me Out of THC, Sexmate for men, Silent Flowers for women, Lean and Clean for digestive health, Bulgorge for male prostate health, and 10X Boost Optimal Botanical Nutrition Mineralization. To build the most powerful immune system immediately and overall nutrition, go to PlatinumVK.com.
All right. About the German Coast Rebellion. Now, you guys, this is not in Germany. This happened in New Orleans, okay? That's the thing. I got a little clip here. I'm trying to pull up a quick one. But hit the number 1 button if you appreciate what I'm doing. Is this the type of stuff y'all like to see? This feels like empowerment to me. That's what this feels like to me. This feels like you learning something that they would never teach you in Black history. That's what this feels like to me, okay? And I hope you guys appreciate this. So I want to talk to you guys about the German Coast Uprising that happened on January 8th, January 8th, 1811. Okay, so here's the thing. It happened down in New Orleans. One of the main conspirators, and this is the crazy thing about me, one of the main conspiracies was a mulatto slave driver. So in 1811, German Coast Uprising was a revolt of Black slaves in parts of the territory of New Orleans. From January 8th to January 10th, 1811, the uprising occurred on the east bank of the Mississippi River in what is now St. John the Baptist, St. Charles, and Jefferson parishes, Louisiana. The slave insurgency was the largest in U.S. history. It was the largest in U.S. history. Why have you never heard about this? They tell you about Nat Turner, but why have they never told you about this one? Huh? Why? Why not? They don't want you knowing what you brothers did. They don't want you knowing that your people were having nothing at all, stood up for themselves. Because now that you have everything, you don't think you can stand up for yourselves. You men don't think you can be the best man you can be, and you have everything that our ancestors wish they had. I want you to think about that. Think about that, brothers. You have no excuses. Our ancestors had nothing. Most of them couldn't read. They couldn't write. They didn't even know. They didn't know where they were going. They had no money. They had nothing. They didn't have ownership of themselves. Here you have everything. You have everything. You even have the right to pick up and leave the country if you want to. Our people couldn't even walk a mile down the street. And you telling me you can't do what our ancestors did and fight for your freedom? And I'm not asking you to even pick up a sword or a gun or nothing. I'm just asking you to be the best man you can be. So that's a cop-out. I don't accept that. And maybe if you know this history, maybe if you realize the people that you come from, you'll stop feeling so inferior. Because that's what, remember, we always talk about white supremacy, but we never talk about the effect of feelings of black inferiority have on us. The slave insurgency was the largest in U.S. history, but the rebels killed only 2 white men. Confrontations with militia and executions after trial killed 95 black people. That's because that's not what they wanted to do. Between 64 and 125 enslaved men marched from sugar cane plantations in the near-present Laplace on German coast towards the city of New Orleans. They collected more men along the way. Some accounts claim that a total of 200 to 500 enslaved persons participated. That's a whole army. That's about a brigade, right? Isn't that like a brigade? During their 2-day, 20-mile march, the men burned 5 plantation houses, 3 completely, several sugar houses, crops. They were armed mostly with hand tools. White men led by officials of the territory formed militia companies, and in a battle on January 10th, killed 40 to 45 of the people escaping slavery while suffering no fatalities themselves. Then hunted down and killed several other people without trial. Over the next 2 weeks, white planters and officials interrogated, tried, executed, and decapitated an additional 44 people escaping slavery who had been captured. Now, see, here's what I want you to understand, family. You're looking at this like, oh, man, that's a loss. No, it's not a loss. You know why it's not a loss? Because that's another point where we fall back, knowing what the outcome was going to be. They got so fed up, they said, you know what, we done. We might die, but that's okay. We're going to die fighting for our freedom. The executions were generally by hanging or firing squad. Heads were displayed on pikes to intimidate other people who might. Since 1995, the African American History Alliance of Louisiana has led an annual commemoration in January of the uprising, in which they have been joined by some descendants of the participants of the revolt. This is what happened. They knew they were going to die, family, but they were willing to fight for their freedom. Death be damned. The rebellion gained momentum quickly, and approximately 15 enslaved people at Andre's plantation, about 30 miles upriver from New Orleans, joined another 8 enslaved people from the next door plantation. The widow Jacquees and George Delandis. Okay, this was the home of plantation Charles Delandis, a slave driver, an enslaved overseer of other slaves, later described by one of the captured slaves as the principal chief of the brigands. Small groups. So basically what they're saying is this cat, Charles Deslons, he was a slave driver, right? And he was an overseer, and he was the main one pushing. In other words, during the day, he whooping on slaves. Get on out there and pick that tobacco. Get on out there and pick that cotton. And at night, he plotting and planning to kill the same people he worked for. You think about that. The one smiling in your face. So all these brothers and sisters wanted freedom. Who you think was killing them babies in the house, them white babies? It was them house Negroes and slitting the white folks' throats when they slept. Everybody wanted freedom. They's the one that, the house Negroes the one getting them little women in there and them boys getting raped and molested, getting hit upside the head, right? This is what was going on. They was tired of it. Tired of it. Full of it. Now, the next one I want to talk about is Nat Turner's rebellion. Y'all know about Nat Turner. Nat Turner's rebellion, also known as the Southampton Insurrection, was a rebellion of enslaved Virginians that took place in Southampton County in August 1831, led by Nat Turner. Now, y'all know Nat Turner was a preacher, right? And he used the Bible to inspire himself and others to fight against. He started reading the whole Bible, not just the part of the Bible that they allowed him to read. The rebels killed between 55 and 65 people, and at least 51 of whom were white. So they had to kill a couple of black folks too. The rebellion was effectively suppressed within 5 days at Belmont Plantation on the morning of August 23rd, but Nat Turner survived in hiding for more than 2 months afterwards. There was widespread fear in the aftermath and militias organized in retaliation to the rebels. Approximately 120 enslaved people and free African Americans were killed by militia and mobs in the area. The Commonwealth of Virginia later executed an additional 56 enslaved people accused of being part of the rebellion, including Turner himself. Many black people who had not participated were also persecuted in a frenzy. Because Turner had been educated and literate, as well as a popular preacher, state legislators subsequently passed new laws prohibiting education of enslaved people and free black people, restricting rights of assembly and other civil liberties for free black people, requiring white ministers to be present at all worship services. That's 1831. So we've gone from 1712 to 1831. All you see is war. Mind you, it's 100 battles that they ain't wrote about. But this is what I want to talk to you guys about. Are you familiar with the Gullah Wars? You guys know what the Gullah Wars are. This is where we're going now. They never want to talk about this. This started in 1738 and didn't end till 1858. So this is an ongoing battle. I want to introduce you guys to some video. Okay. I want y'all to kick back and check this out. Hit the number 1 button if you're with me. Hit the number 1 button for the ancestors, family. Happy Black History Month. We got to get rid of these feelings of black inferiority. We got to get rid of these feelings of we were slaves. No, we were warriors. We were fighting our asses off. Fair use. Let me know if you can hear this, family. Fair use. Fair use. Shout out to History No Chase.
The following program is rated TV MALV. It contains strong language and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Blacks were happy, obedient slaves who sang spirituals and waited for the good Lord Jesus to come and set them free.
Let me know you can hear me.
They hardly ever rebelled against their horrific conditions because they knew that if they did, they would end up with nooses strung around their necks and their bloody decapitated heads mounted on poles along the major thoroughfares to set an example for any enslaved Africans who even contemplated doing the same. Wait a minute, that's not historically accurate. There's more to the history of so-called African Americans than our enslavement that's pathetically portrayed in movies such as Roots and 12 Years a Slave. For example, the Gullah Geechee people living along the sea islands in South Carolina and Georgia fled their enslavers and established numerous independent settlements throughout Florida. And I'm not talking about that dilapidated Spanish-controlled town called Gracia Real de Santa Teresa de Mose that revisionist historians and white supremacists falsely prop up as the place where blacks fled to and lived happy and free. Were it not for the unprovoked, ungodly, and relentless pursuits of one of their greatest nemesis, Andrew Jackson, and Presidents Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe, the Gullah Geechee people would have reestablished Florida as an independent black nation similar to Haiti.
How many slave rebellions have you heard about? I'm sure you've heard about Nat Turner. I've made videos about Denmark Vesey and John Brown. But something that's not mentioned enough is the fact that we've had hundreds of rebellions. Hundreds.
Did you guys hear that? We've had hundreds of rebellions. Hundreds of rebellions. You understand what I'm saying? We've had hundreds of rebellions spearheaded by black men. So the next time one of these suckers tell you you descended from slaves, say, no, we're descended from freedom fighters. And we're still fighting. You're descended from who? You ran over here. So what does that say about you? Huh? You make sure you let them know what your true history are. Black Americans should be proud. You should be some of the proud. You should be the proudest group of Africans on this goddamn planet. Nobody's had as hard as you, and nobody has fought as hard as you for as long as you have. We fought white folks from how long? Did you hear that? From 1739 to 1858, and that's just the Gullah Wars alone. That's over 100 years of fighting with them for our goddamn freedom. You should never be ashamed of who you are. Don't ever let, we weren't slaves. We might have been pretending to be slaves. Yeah, we was doing some work for free, but we was killing some SOBs also. And we were fighting for our freedom. We ain't no punks. We ain't here to lay down. Don't you let those African, and I got much love for my African brothers. Got much love for my West Indian brothers, Haitians, and y'all fought y'all was, but y'all ain't fought like this. You didn't fight for 100 years with no backup, knowing that you was gonna die. So y'all Haitian voodoo guys told y'all was gonna win. Y'all even had white folks on your side in Haiti fighting with you. Yeah, do the history. We didn't have nobody, just us. Other than John Brown, rest his soul. Hundreds. If the country is on, how old is this country? Shit. 1776. It's 2022. This country 250 years old, and we've had hundreds of battles. What does that tell you? That's every guy at 1860. 160 some battles in so many years. That's a fight every year. You know, white folks are scared to death of us, man. Let's keep listening. Hit the number 1 button.
And one rebellion that never gets talked about are the Gullah Wars. Our ancestors have never just accepted slavery and laid down. We have always fought back. Did they capture some of us? Yes. But when you're outmanned and outgunned, you're in a pretty tough position. You're in a tough position when you have this punk motherfucker pointing a gun at your 9-year-old daughter. His musket is in her face, and he's telling you, either get on this boat or I'll blow her head off. As a father, as a parent, you'll probably put those chains on and sit down on that boat. Now, generations go by and people are born into slavery. Once you are born into slavery, hell, you think you are a slave. In Frederick Douglass's biography, he spoke about how once slavery was over, many of those slaves wanted to go back into slavery because that's all they knew.
And even then, we still stood up. Maybe not even knowing what freedom was, we still stood up. Y'all get the likes up, man. Hit the number one button. Show your appreciation for this. Y'all clearly see I put a lot of time into this. I literally spent all day Saturday putting this stuff together for you guys. So hit the number one button. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, man, contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. We have yet to receive any Cash App donations in this history break, this thing I'm trying to do. We need to get we got some self-esteem issues in the Black community, especially amongst Black men. We got some self-esteem issues, brother. It's Black inferiority that's holding us down now more than white supremacy. Our ancestors fought the hell out of white supremacy. What we're dealing with now are the shackles of mental slavery. And we need to we need to saw those shackles off. You don't know who your ancestors were. Stop telling people you're not your ancestors and you don't know who your ancestors were. We dealing with this. We dealing with this like men. Shout out to my man Urban Eagle and David Price. If you appreciate this, man, hit the number one button, contribute to the Super Chat. This is good for your self-esteem. You understand me? We fought. We fought. We are not slaves. We might have been in bondage, but we wasn't no goddamn slaves. We were warriors in bondage. We were soldiers in bondage. We were free men in bondage. You make sure you respond to all these people who have this negativity to say about Black folks. I would never want to be any other kind of Black person on this planet other than a Black American. Ain't nobody fought like us. All odds against us. And we still fought back, knowing we was going to die. Fighting on a foreign land for our freedom. Knowing more likely than not we was going to die, but we was going to do it anyway because we didn't want to see not one more of our Black babies in slavery. This is what we did as Black Americans. Don't you let none of these folks come to this country and tell you you a slave. You say, no, brother. And you can add a mother on the front of that brother. And you can put an F on the beginning of that brother. No mother, brother. We were warriors. We fought and been fighting. And still fighting. And you need to get on code and watch your mouth. But let's continue. So, of course, that's the Honorable Frederick Douglass. You should know who that is. If not, that's a terrible thing. But that's another thing. You don't know your history. You let others tell you your history. So we're going to talk about the Gullah Wars. And as I mentioned earlier, Georgia was an all-white buffer state. They put Georgia there what? Because they got tired of them. They need that. That was just too much instability. Spain was down there and they had all them niggers down there. The niggers is hiding out in the swamps and the Everglades, and they'd come up and raid Georgia and South Carolina, free slaves and leave, kill white folk. Ain't no stability down there. Remember, South Carolina was an important place. That was the hub of the sugar and the tobacco. That's how America was getting rich. That's how that's how Britain was getting rich. And you got these pesky Negroes down here who done teamed up with the Spanish, most of them from the Congo, killing off all the goddamn good white folk and freeing our slaves. So they put Georgia there as a buffer state. It was an all-white state. Look at it. Do the history of Georgia. And here's something else I want you to understand, man. This is the nitty-gritty. When the rubber hits the pavement, we all know about the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation, right? We all know about the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, right? Abraham Lincoln, you know all that, right? The history that they taught you in school. But many of us don't know about the Gullah Wars and the influence that it had and how it forced the country to deal with slavery on a political level. What the hell are you talking about, Uncle D? What do you mean? Abraham Lincoln wanted to free us. He's our liberator. Juneteenth, he's our emancipator. No. Let's talk about this first. The Gullah, which could be derived from Angola, referring to as African people. These African wars, they helped the Spanish in their fight against the colonial powers of America. Now, Black people are deprived of their history, okay? And I'm gonna get back to my point. Black people are deprived from their history and the strength that their legacy inspires. American history has been told with a skewed narrative so as to suppress the exploits of Black people and denote their victories, therefore suffocating the greatness in future generations. They don't want you to know your goddamn history. If I start telling you, brothers, you were descendants of warriors who fought every goddamn day they could, that might put something in your mind and make you think you should be fighting for what you should get right, what you believe is yours right now. The reason they tell you and teach you that all you did was lay down to be slaves is because they want you to lay down and be slaves now. The reason they put all these slave movies up with some great white savior, like 12 Years a Slave, some white man had to come down and save you, is because what? Because they want you to lay down until some white man comes and slaves you and frees you. They always talk about South Carolina and Georgia and how horrible these places were, not telling you that right there in North Florida, you had them Seminole Indians down there, them Black Seminoles down there, them Black folks that escaped down. So they was escaping north and south. Even some escaped to Mexico. But right now they were escaping down to Florida, hiding out in the swamps, coming up, raiding, hitting these white folks in South Carolina. You could go north and you could go south. North was cool, but south was better. See, we're taught in the public school systems about 1 or 2 slave rebellions. Y'all already know Nat Turner and Jim Brown. You know who I'm talking about. Goddamn, I just said his name earlier. The white dude, what's his name? The abolitionist. With Nat Turner and what's his name, y'all? The white, I just said his name. Goddamn, I can't. But those are the only 2 slave rebellions you talk about. They never tell you about the Gullah Wars, which lasted from 1739 to 1858. Why, oh why, would they not tell you about these wars that last almost 120 years? Why would they not tell you about the large-scale military resistance that Black men leading Native American tribes put up to end chattel slavery? Again, shout out to my man John Thomas. Thank you so much. John Brown, that's right. They tell you about Nat Turner and John Brown. One white, one Black. They never tell you about the Gullah Wars. Y'all don't know about John Horse. How can you avoid 100 years of warfare? Why is this omitted out of history? Most of y'all didn't even know about Stono's Rebellion, which we talked about. Huh? The slaves killed the slaves owners and marched through the Carolinas chanting liberty, liberty, liberty. As a result of this rebellion, that's when they put in the New Negro Act. We talked about that just now. How about the Battle of Horseshoe Bend in 1814? General Thomas Jessup said this. This is a white man who was a general in the U.S. Army. Throughout my operations, I have found the Negroes, and that's what they used to call Black people back there. So we'll just change it up. Throughout my operations, I have found that Black men, the active and determined warriors, during the conferences with Indian chief, I ascertained that the Negro, the black man, exercised an almost controlling influence over him. So yeah, the Indian chief might be in charge, but it's the black man said, no, he's telling the Indian man what we're gonna do. The general goes on to say, this, you be assured that this is a Negro war, not an Indian war. So they always, again, they try to hide your history. They call it the Seminole Wars, the Black Seminole War. No, this is a Negro war. These are a bunch of escaped black men and women who went down to Florida, and they hiding out down there, and they waging war. The Battle of Negro Fort, the Battle of Negro Fort of 1816. After this loss, the Gullah fighters returned to decentralized warfare or guerrilla warfare. Instead of trying to take siege over this damn fort, they said, no, we're going to go, but they still fighting. Slaves were actually fleeing south for freedom, joining the rebellion, and thousands of U.S. soldiers were killed fighting these wars. Thousands of U.S. soldiers were killed, and you guys have never heard about this? Why do you think that is? Now, let me tell you about this Battle of Shawnee. So basically, and I'm going to get to this in a little bit detail, Shawnee was a little town in Florida, North Florida. And so the white folks nearby said, well, we can't have all these Negroes down here. It's too powerful. They got guns and they shooting and killing. So Andrew Jackson, your former president, on your $20 bill, he decided, well, we're going to go down here and we're going to go down and kill all these Negroes. So they went down there and got their ass handed. They got their hat handed to them. Okay, they got handed to them. And so on their retreat, after they got whooped on, they found the spot where all the children were, the black and the Native American women and children, and they killed all of them. This is what Andrew Jackson, this is the same tyrant that is on the cover of your $20 bill. The Battle of Shawnee killed a bunch of black women and children after he got whooped by the men. Ain't that something? These are the heroes. These are the heroes of the United States. And you guys are afraid to say Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in public? But we got this killer, this Andrew Jackson killer on the $20 magazine, $20 bill, and you're afraid to say Malcolm X? This is what they got. This is how you are. Shit. You want me to denounce the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X? I want you to denounce George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, all these killers. Because the people I mentioned before ain't did no killing, ain't killed nobody. Think about that. Denmark Vesey's conspiracy of 1812 in Charleston, South Carolina. Almost all the slaves, thousands joined the conspiracy to overthrow their oppressor. The Dade Massacre. This victory was labeled a massacre to hide the triumph efforts of the Gullah. That's another thing. They'll call it a conspiracy or a massacre. Massacre is when these oppressors got killed. You understand me? All this down in Florida. Battle of Wichita River, 1835. The Gullah defeated General Gaines. This is, you understand what's happening here, family? You got black people who were formerly enslaved fighting with little or nothing. They don't have this fancy equipment. They don't have any of this stuff. And they fighting against one of the most powerful armies at the time and navies. And that is what? The United States military. This is 1835. You understand me? Whooping on them. The Battle of Lake Okeechobee. Okay? What happened then? This is a lot of fighting. Clearly, we understand the history of America. We understand that bloodshed brings about change in this country. These Gullah Wars pressured the North. It pressured Washington to end slavery. And the Civil War was more like a formality orchestrated by what? Necessity. And so when you have public school systems that are created to educate workers for industry, why would they teach you history from the perspective of some of their best workers, which would probably make them not want to work and say, hey, I could be an owner. My people took this cut. It was a couple, we won a lot. It was the pressure from the Gullah Wars that said we cannot keep these people enslaved any longer. That's where the pressure come from. That's why it was a political issue. The Civil War didn't free us. We freed us. The 13th Amendment was an event to hide and detour the self-liberation process of black people. Well, they're going to get free anyway, so let's just go ahead and free them. Otherwise, why would they free him? Why would they free us? There was no incentive for them to free us. They had to. They had to. Because if they didn't, we was going to free ourselves and they wouldn't have no control over it after that. Then they was going to like, well, we freed ourselves. Why we got to listen to you? We won that battle. The Emancipation Proclamation was a way of appealing to these African people and say, hey, look, we're going to free all of y'all down there in those states. Come side with us. As opposed to uniting with your African brothers. Look, we freed y'all, our bad. Think about that. It was a negotiation technique. It was a fallback plan. They never intended to have us in this United States in the first place. We was always supposed to be worked to death, killed off, and died, and it was supposed to be an all-white enclave. But here we are. We fought back. The only reason we're still here is because we fought. Y'all remember that, man. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what's called the Seminole Wars, and then we're going to open up the chat. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat room now. You guys appreciate this? Is this good stuff, man? Is this what y'all want to hear during Black History Month? This is motivating to you? Huh? The link is in the chat room. I want to hear what you have to say. You should be motivated by this. You should never let anybody tell you what you can't do and what you can do. You come from a generation, you come from warriors. I bet you them black folks back there didn't believe in white supremacy racism. One of the problems that we got too many goddamn academics. We got too many people that make too much money telling you you can't be free. And they're not going to stop saying it until you liberate yourself. They get paid by playing off of your insecurities. Keep that in mind. They get what? They get paid by playing off your insecurities, brothers. They keep preaching. It's not so much white supremacy as the problem. It's feelings of black inferiority. And we don't do that here. I don't accept that. We don't accept black inferiority on this page, not in this house, not in my office, not in my life. We don't accept that. We do or we die trying over here. And these are the type of men that I'm raising. And these are the type of men that I expect from all of you guys who say you support me, you appreciate what I'm doing. This is what we do here. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Black Seminole Wars. Now, because see, the thing is, the Gullah Wars have been distinguished in the education system as the Seminole War or the Indian Wars, when in fact, black men joined forces with Native American tribes to fight against white supremacy, even forming the Negro towns, which serves as refuge for slaves who could escape the fields of their oppressors. Now, this is Georgia and South. Look, I'm going to tell you, Georgia, South Carolina, North Florida, special places. Warriors from down there. Why you think some of the best athletes in the world come straight up out of goddamn Florida and Georgia? It's that warrior spirit. Now, the thing is, the Black Seminoles, as they are called, are a small offshoot of the Gullah who escaped from the rice plantations in South Carolina and Georgia. They built their own settlements in the Florida frontier, fought a series of wars to preserve their freedom, and were scattered across North America. The Gullahs were establishing their own free settlements in Florida's wilderness by at least 1700. They built separate villages and thatched roof huts surrounded by fields of corn and swamp rice, and they maintained friendly relations with mixed population of refugee Indians. In time, the two groups came to view themselves as part of the same loosely organized tribe. In other words, the Africans and the Native Americans down there said, well, hell, we've been interbreeding and messing around in so long, for decades now, we the same people. General Jackson, formerly known as President Andrew Jackson, referred to this first Seminole War as the Indian Negro War. In 1835, the second Seminole War broke out, and this full-scale guerrilla war would last 6 years and claim the lives of 1,500 American soldiers. They killed 1,500 white soldiers. But we don't never hear about this. This is 1835. You hear me? The Black Seminoles waged the fiercest resistance as they feared the capture or surrender meant death or return to slavery. They were more adept at living and fighting in jungles than their Indian comrades. Ain't that something? Now, I want you guys to check out a couple books, okay? Let's put this up, and y'all get the likes. I want to hear y'all come in. I want to hear all the reasons why black men can't succeed no more. Where all y'all at? Tell me this is, what do y'all call that? This is that elitist pull yourself up by your bootstraps talk. That's what me telling you what your people doing, man. Go ahead, tell me that. Tell me this is elitist talk. I'm telling you what our ancestors did. This is a book. I want you to check it out. It's on Amazon, The Invisible War. All right, The Invisible War attempts to redress a fundamental misconception lodged in the heart of American history. The notion that there was no significant collective resistance to struggle against slavery by captured Africans who had been forcibly immigrated. They were stolen, not immigrated, it was kidnapped, and brought to the United States from the mother continent. Such as lacuna may stem from the extent to which then contemporary records sought to disguise the true nature of what are presently called Seminole Wars as just another set of Indian wars, rather than a struggle of African resistance to slavery, conducting an alliance with Indian resistance to ongoing colonial encroachment. What are they saying? Basically, what they're saying is this was black people fighting against you. That whole Seminole War thing, no. That's black people fighting against you. And the Indians joined in because they just got tired of y'all taking over their land. Damn goddamn colonizers. While the academic and public understanding celebrate the heroes of the Underground Railroad for facilitating the movement of Africans towards freedom in the North, there is virtual silence surrounding the more logical, more sizable, more political significant movement of self-liberated Africans southward to free territories in what is now Georgia and Florida. See, here's what you got. They're quick to tell you about Harriet Tubman. They ain't gonna tell you about John Horse. First of all, because Harriet Tubman was a little short, little black woman, just sneak in and sneak out. These black men in Georgia and Florida in these wars, these were black men like, no, we not only are we not running away, we coming back and killing you and taking stuff from you. You understand what I'm saying? That's not a story that they want to bring out. We fought for our freedom, brothers. From these southern territories, communities of free Africans were to wage a constant struggle against slavery-based colonies to the north, both by force and arms and by example. They represent an ongoing threat to the existence of the Anglo-Carolina institutionalized slavery. They was running up there freeing black people. You couldn't keep the Negroes on the goddamn plantation. This is what we did. Here's another book I want y'all to check out. Florida's Negro War, okay? Black Seminoles in the Second Seminole War of 1835. And that lasted longer than the Civil War. My man, General Horse, actually, once John Horse made it to Oklahoma and then had to escape to Mexico, the Mexican army made him a general. Okay, and those people that left. So here's the story. I want y'all to listen. Okay, So they fought and fought. And when I say they, I'm talking about in the Gullah Wars, the Seminoles, the black, they fought and fought, and eventually they were sent to, they fought so hard and said, look, we can't keep fooling with these people. Let's try to broker a deal with them. So John Horace, the government said, look, we're going to send y'all to Oklahoma. They went to Oklahoma. About 9 years later, the American government broke the treaty with these black Seminoles. And they end up having to go down to Mexico to flee because they was going to try to put them back in slavery. And they said, hell to the Nizar, we ain't going. And so they ended up going to Mexico. And these are what you call the Muskogos, also known as Negro Muskogos of African descent. So you literally have black people, and this touches the Texas border. I want to share with you guys this. That's another thing. But the Muskogos are right there on the territory border of Texas. Shout out to my man Lucifer Ratzinger. Thank you so much. Good to have you back in here. You see what I'm saying? So, brothers, you can't tell me what you can't do. I'm not trying to hear none of that. All right, I'm not trying to hear none of that. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this play, and then I want you guys to listen to what this historian has to say, and we're gonna come back in, and the link is in the chat room. Okay, so let me know if you can hear.
Part Spartacus and part Braveheart and part Amistad and part Glory with a little bit of Dances with Wolves thrown in. A story decades long of oppression.
Can you hear?
And hopefully we can correct this.
Can y'all hear? Can y'all hear? Let me know if you can hear it. If you can hear it, hit the #1 button.
John Horace and the Black Seminoles deserve to be remembered for a number of reasons. They created the largest haven in the U.S. South for runaway slaves. They led the largest slave revolt in U.S. history. They secured the only emancipation of rebellious slaves prior to the U.S. Civil War, and they formed the largest mass exodus of slaves across the United States, moving from the Florida Everglades through Indian Territory, what would become Oklahoma, eventually locating in Mexico, where they secured title to their own land. It's a remarkable story. It's overlooked not just by filmmakers, it's not well known in popular culture, and in fact, it's been overlooked by historians of slavery, if you can believe it. In the early 18th century, two groups in particular fled the colonial South into Spanish Florida, into the Everglades. One of these groups were Seminoles, who were migrating from the various colonies, just trying to avoid white encroachment, basically, trying to move someplace that white colonists weren't. And the other group was runaway slaves, people who were the American Revolution.
I'm sorry, can y'all hear now?
People living in the southern states didn't really like living that close to a large armed population of former slaves, particularly when they were in league with the local Native American nation, the large armed group of free Seminoles. And they knew that their own slaves felt free to run away and be harbored by this group. They knew that they were welcomed. And so from George Washington's administration on, there was questions of what do we do about the problem of the Florida Everglades?
Do you hear that? What do we do about the problem? From George Washington on, they have black people running down to Florida. Okay? So this is not something new. From George Washington, from the beginning of the United States, you were fighting free black men who did what? We're fighting back against slavery. So before America was even formed, because we went all the way back to 1712, I want y'all to listen to that, man. Before this country was even formed, we were fighting against it. This is the Black history that we need to hear. This is how we eradicate Black inferiority. It's not so much white supremacy anymore. We all know you're a fool right now if you think white people are supreme. Any Black man or Black woman in America who thinks white people are supreme at anything is just a goddamn fool. You know that. You beat them each and every time you have an opportunity. Anytime it's a fair shot, you always win. Whether it's in the courtroom with Johnny Cochran or on the field of play with LeBron James, Kobe, and all these other cats. We always beat them. So clearly, white supremacy is not an issue. White people don't even think they supreme anymore. That's why they whining and crying all the goddamn time about everything. It's Black inferiority that we have to deal with. And it's rampant in the Black community, especially amongst black men. Right here in the manosphere. That's when you hear somebody like me saying things like, you got to do better. I want you to be the best man you can be. You call that elitism. What if I was a Black man and say, look, man, we're going to get free, man. We're going to get rid of these white folk. We're going to run down here to Florida. Oh, no, that's elitism. We're going to stay here on the plantation. You heard what the man said. Some folks got free and said, we want to go back to slavery. That's how you Negroes sound to me when I tell you to be the best man you can be. You sound like the Black people who say, oh, no, we got to go back to slavery. That's how you sound to me. When I tell you Black men, be the best man you can be, and you say, oh, no, that's elitism. We want to go back to being, you should want to be elite. You're the cream of the crop. You should want to be elite. You're the first man on the planet. You should want to be elite. Period. My man J.S. Hines said, randoms, superb live stream, brother. Slavery is not our shame, it's theirs. Black men, pick your head up and keep up and get damn right. We fought. We've been fighting. We've been fighting since before this country was formed for our own goddamn freedom. Shout out to my man Lucifer Ratzinger. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And you never forget it. And you don't let anybody put you down about it. Let's continue listening. Hit the number 1 button, fair use.
In 1818, this was James Monroe's administration, General Andrew Jackson actually moved into Florida, invaded it, not authorized to do so. He was actually pursuing justice against those who'd attacked Fort Scott in Georgia, but he did it anyway. He went into Florida and claimed it for the United States. When he seized the peninsula, he took the opportunity to execute some of the people who opposed him and also to clean out some of the areas of former slaves and Seminoles because he felt that this would make it better for annexation. The United States then soon actually bought Florida from the Spanish.
All right, I want to explain to y'all what's going on. So basically, Andrew Jackson, the president, the one on the $20 bill, he was sent down to Georgia to, for some retaliation against some people who attacked the fort. And he said, oh, hell, why are we down here? I'm going to go ahead. Because, they were looking for glory. And by the time the news got back to Washington, D.C., it wasn't like they had cell phones and whatnot. By the time the news got back to Washington, D.C., he figured he'd have a win under his belt. You see what I mean? That he get all the glory. Of course, the man had political aspirations. Of course, war heroes were looked upon. So he trying to make a name for himself. I get it. So he said, well, I'm just going to go down here and kill up all these Negroes and goddamn Indians. And I'll make a big name. It's an easy fight. We've been fighting Indians. They can't do nothing with us. And I'll make a big name for myself, make these white folks out down here in Florida happy. They'll speak good things about me. And so he went down there, went and invaded Florida, killed off a bunch of folks, basically cleaned it out, as they say, and prepared it for what? Annexation. Annexation is what they did to Hawaii. That's why Hawaiians are still mad. You invaded our country, you took over our capital, you captured our queen, Lililani, and now you just say, hey, now we declare this to be our country. That's what happened to Hawaii. That's what they were trying to do to Spain. I mean, that's what they were trying to do to Florida, which was owned by Spain. We just don't take it. But basically what happened, the Spanish looked at it and said, well, hell, they done took it anyway. They got an army down there. So what are we going to do? We just sell it. We just sold it to them, right? But now you still have the problem of what? Those Indians and those black people. The Seminoles who went there to get away from white people, and those black people who went down to get away from white people in their slavery. One was getting away from enslavement. The other one was getting away from encroachment and colonization. Nobody wanted to be around the white folks. That's what all those Seminoles had in mind, in common. My man Lucifer Ratzinger said, fact, slavery was a choice, and those black men of that time knew and understood that. Those men and women fought alongside. And you know what? It's hard to admit, but you either have death, or you can remain enslaved, or you can fight for your freedom. So there was a choice. Just some hard goddamn choices to make. That's what was happening. And a lot of people don't want to accept that, because a lot of you fear death more than you. Some people just don't feel the way you do. Some people think a life in an enslaved life is not life at all. And they say, I'd rather die fighting than be enslaved. That's what they mean. That's what Lucifer Ratzinger means by slavery was a choice. And in this regard, you see what choice these brothers made. Now imagine if all these brothers and sisters here and decided, I'd rather die than be a slave. Now you got 4 million black folks saying, no, I'd rather die than be a slave. What would happen? But as long as they got you feeling inferior, as long as the system of white supremacy, which tells white people they're better, but simultaneously tells you're inferior, as long as you believe that part, you're going to stay where you at. You have got to change your mindset, black folks, especially black men. When you start changing your mindset and say, you know what? Hell with all that. You got to do it. We're dealing with inferiority complexes right now, large scale. And not all of us have that. But right now, when you look at it, it's like, why are we feeling inferior? If middle class is the thing to be, and you got 60% of black men in the middle class are wealthy, America's about making money, and it looked like 60% of black men are on the right path. Why do you feel inferior still? Why do you still let people tell you what you can't do, and you see 60% of your brothers have done it already? And even some of you in the 60%, you still making excuses for what you can't do, and you did it. That's inferiority like a mug. You understand me? Let's continue listening.
When Jackson became president, he decided to make sure that the Black Seminole communities were moved out by force. So he pursued this in his policy, which was 1835 to 1842, and became the largest and costliest of the so-called Indian Wars. Because the two communities, the former slaves and the Seminole.
Did you hear that part? Of all the wars that America has fought against Indians, that was the largest and the costliest. Now, who was down there fighting? It wasn't just Indians. What did General Jessup say? It's these Negroes down here running these Indians. These Indians ain't saying a goddamn thing. It was the largest and the costliest. If that's the largest and the costly of the Indian wars, why have we never heard about that in history? What would that do to your mind as a young black man if during Black History Month they wasn't talking about we shall overcome and I have a dream? They was talking about these Negroes fought us so hard in 1835. It was one of the largest, costliest wars we ever had that they fought for their freedom. What would that do to your 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old son and daughter? You damn sure wouldn't think you're slaves. You said these are free black people who forced their way to freedom and then turned around and fought against the U.S. Army So think about it. You got some free black people down there with guns and hatchets, and they fighting against the Navy SEALs. They wasn't sending rookies down there to fight against these black men in these swamps. They were sending the best soldiers that they had, and them soldiers was getting routed up out of there. They've been fighting for 120 years. You think they're going to send some suckers down there? They sent the best of the best, and they got their butt handed to them. That's why they don't tell you about that. This is what your black American brothers and sisters did. And here's the other thing. The importation of slavery had ended 35, 40 years ago. So it's no longer like you got Congolese coming straight over. These are black folks saying, hell with that. These are black folks 3, 4 generations in, straight off the plantation, said, hell with that. You ain't going to have me in slavery. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you. I'd rather die fighting. This is the spirit from which you come from, brothers. So when we say stuff like, I'm not my ancestors, man, you don't even know what you're saying. We are our ancestors. And we want our ancestors to continue being proud of us. They've done all the heavy lifting, black man. They fought for your physical freedom. All you got to do is break these shackles of mental slavery. That's all you got to do. And you do that by what? Excelling. You do that by what? Pushing and pushing and pushing yourself to be the best you can be. And never quitting. This is what your ancestors wanted you to do. You've been lied to so long about you being inferior that you really settled to be in that place. And really, it's all on you at this point. This is not an elitism conversation. This is me telling you what you're supposed to do, because I know what we've done in the past. And this is just history. Your history. Now, I wish it had been ingrained in you. I wish our history, our true history, especially our warrior history, had been ingrained in us since we were young boys and young girls. But it wasn't. But it's not too late. This is your history. And unfortunately, this system is not going to teach. Why would they teach you your real history? They want you to be happy employees and think you can't do it. Otherwise, y'all might think y'all can go out there and start running businesses like Lucifer Ratzinger does. You might think you could become a billionaire, a millionaire. Like some of these, you might get beside yourself if they start pumping your self-esteem up. They need you to feel bad about yourself. But you got to shake this mental slavery, brothers. This is where it's at right now. It's up here. You're no longer in bondage. They don't have manacles around your neck and your arms. The bonds are here. The chains are in your mind now. And you got to break those chains. You got to do everything you can. I can do whatever I want to do. I'm a free man. What do I tell you guys on this? The whole world is belong. The world belongs to whoever's strong enough to take it and hold on to it. These are the things that I preach here. I will never allow you to lay down in front of me. I will never see you down and crying and whining about what you can't do. I will never allow you to do that. I don't care how much you all hate me. I don't care what you say. That's not acceptable, especially as black men. But let's continue listening.
When the Seminoles were attacked in the Seminole War, this led to an uprising of the former slaves. In April of 1836, Black Seminoles and their Indian allies moved together to create what was the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history. This wasn't just a matter of runaway slaves. More than 385 plantation slaves ran away from their masters and joined the Black Seminoles, essentially in laying waste to the Florida sugar mills, which were some of the most valuable plantations in the whole continent. One Seminole leader at the time was the leader Osceola, who is justly remembered by history. Another leader who rose up at this time was John Horse, who was ethnically a Black Seminole, and who would ultimately lead his people on a long and trying exodus for their freedom.
All right, hold on.
In 1838,
see, there's some trickery in there. She said ethnically a Black Seminole. No, he was an African. He was a Black African man. That's who that was. You understand me? Ethnically, he was a Black African man, probably black as hell, down in goddamn North Florida. Let's get that straight. All right, so don't be fooled by the trickeration here. But let's continue listening.
John Horse and the Black Seminoles agreed to stop fighting the U.S. government in exchange for moving to what was then considered to be Indian Territory, which is now today the state of Oklahoma, and for legal recognition of their freedom. So despite the fact many of them were runaway slaves, they would have the opportunity to start over again as free individuals. Once they moved from the Everglades to Indian Territory, however, they found that their freedom was under attack, both by whites and by other Native Americans.
All right, so basically what's going on, they got John Horse and those Seminoles to move out of some. They got to get them. We got to get them out this goddamn swamp. They've been fighting us for 120 years in this goddamn swamp. Got to get them out of this goddamn swamp, and we're moving to Oklahoma. That's the territory they're not familiar with. So they put them over there in Oklahoma, and then you got the white folks who are taking over Oklahoma, and the Indians who are already there fighting against them. You see what I'm saying? So that's what she's saying. All right.
In 1848, a decade after they had made the agreement with the U.S. government, the U.S. Attorney General announced that the government never had the authority, the power to recognize their freedom. And in fact, they were still, those who had been slaves, still enslaved.
All right, so basically African Americans were property. So the government cannot say, oh, we can write a deal with you, you guys are free. No, in actuality, 10 years later, after y'all done went over to Oklahoma and calmed down and everything, no, well, you know what, we didn't have the right to free you. Isn't that terrible? The stroke of a pen. These are the lies, right? But John Horse didn't fall for it. Keep listening. Listen what old John Horse did.
This was like opening season on them, basically declaring that they were there for the picking. And so they did the only thing they could do. They fled once again. Without security in Indian Territory, Horse and his Seminole ally Coahuila promptly went to Mexico, where slavery was already illegal and had been for a couple of decades. There, Horse became famous as a general in the Mexican army, and his people found a way to make a life. Once they relocated to Mexico, things changed. All
right, so let me give you a little geography. This is Houston, right? This is Houston right here. Okay, that's Austin. Okay, so right up in here, basically, right down here, which is probably about 100, 200 miles from Houston, is where our African brothers landed. They call themselves the Muskogos. So if you go there right now, there's a small percentage of those Africans that came from Florida, North Florida, up to Oklahoma, and then landed down here. Okay, so they're still there. That's our heritage, man. They're right there. The truth is right that these freedom fighters are right here. Okay, so if they ever wanted to do a movie, this is not made up. They are right here. I'm gonna pull some pictures up so y'all can look at them, but keep listening.
Slave catchers from the Republic of Texas went over the border to try to find the runaway slaves, now free men. They met resistance not only from the Black Seminoles, but also from the Mexicans and the Mexican army itself. Eventually, the Black Seminoles, led by Horse, gained legally recognized Mexican land, Nacimiento. Why isn't this recognized today? Well, for one thing, historians tend to be historians of Native American history or historians of slavery, but there's not many that move among these subjects. And it's a bit confusing because you have both the issue of runaway slaves and the issue of Native Americans kind of blended together. So it seems to fall through the cracks. Tradition is that Nat Turner's rebellion is the big turning point in the history of slavery and slave revolt. That happened before the rebellion of the Black Seminoles. So it doesn't really fit the traditional trajectory. And perhaps most importantly, it really represents a blemish on U.S. history, not only because of the poor.
What she means is they got their ass whooped. Number one. Number two, they outright lied and turned their back on these people. Say, "Oh no, you're slaves again." We don't. So it's just that's why they don't want to talk about it. Would you want to talk about that? Hell no. Let's continue listening.
Treatment of Native America, as represented by the Seminole War. Not only the poor treatment of African Americans through the devices of slavery, but also because this group really did manage to negotiate a separate peace with the U.S. government, and 10 years later, the government turned their backs on them. So it's, in multiple ways, a difficult story for people of the United States to tell. But it's worth remembering that
it's a difficult story for the people of the United States to tell. Why? Because then they would have to admit we got our asses whooped by these black folks, and black people weren't just these happy, easy to get along with, happy slaves that we decided to let free. No, they fought for their freedom. It got so bad we had to free them, and then what flowed from there was we just gotta let them go. Let's keep listening.
Community of freedom fighters trekked from Florida to Oklahoma to Mexico and found ultimately peace and freedom and prosperity in lives that they could direct as their own. I recommend highly the website johnhorse.com for more information.
All right, fair use. I hope you guys appreciate that. We'll take a quick commercial break. I got my man up in here, Alvin Holden. We'll do something. We got to get a little break in here, man. I got to pay the bills, man. I got a sponsor right now, man. I want y'all to make sure y'all check my sponsor out. I got to see if I can pull this thing up real quick. Hold on 1 minute. Let me pull my sponsor's video up. I told him I'll play it. We'll be right back.
The world in which we live has entered into the greatest health crisis in human history, with half of the world infected physically, while the other half wholly rejecting the idea of a vaccine injection for fear of adverse side effects. And
with some coughing and whatnot. And so a friend of mine sent me VK Platinum. And I've been taking this stuff and it's been really helpful. So I want to suggest to you guys that this is a good black-owned company and they got these vitamin supplements. It's been very helpful for me. And I would hope that you guys would follow. All right, oops. This is the spray right here. It's good for you when your breath is hot anyway. But check out VK Platinum, fellas. All right, so we ran that. So here I want to share this view with. Hold on, let me see if I can get that to clear up. This is right. I want to look at this brother right here. Look at that. Look at that. See this dude right here? This right here is one of the descendants of those black Seminole Indians. Just across the border, this Mexican community also celebrates Juneteenth. The Southern Underground Railroad, which we never hear about, formerly enslaved people reached freedom in northern Mexico. One village here has observed Juneteenth, Dia de los Negros, for 150 years. Why do you think it's been 150 years? Because that's when they got there. Here's another one, Mexican village. Look at these folks right here, right? Some of you Mexicans down there, you keep that in mind. Los negros. Tú estás los negros conmigo. Tú es mi hermano. Tú no blancos. Escúchame. But anyway, brother, welcome, Alvin. How you doing today, sir?
Great, thank you. Uncle D, can you hear me?
I gave that long ass history lesson.
Nah. I needed that. See, that's what we've been missing, man. That's what we've been missing. Because that's the you know, I think that we have a lot of shame with slavery, and it's not and we haven't, the majority of us haven't gone the extra steps to learn the history. And so it's hard to be proud of such a history when you don't know anything about it. right? You know, if I was an Italian and I was like ancient Rome and the gladiators, and there's so many things to be proud of.
Right.
You know, we're not connected to Africa. Most of us don't know what part of Africa we may or may not have come from. So we've got this void where there is no kind of a pride or dignity in who we are. And these are the types of stories that we need to hear to kind of build us back up again. And they've been intentionally forgotten.
Yeah.
And I know because I went looking myself. Like I said, I've been on a 2-year journey myself of re-educating myself about the American history, Black history, and these are the things that come up. And it's funny because, again, it'll coincide with a lot of the legislation that has been passed for the country. A lot of it is based around these events. So thank you more than anything.
Well, the thing is, it's not so much about just knowing history, it's applying it. And we need to hear this right now, because you got a lot of brothers who are already defeated. When I tell them, hey, brother, stand up, be the man you're supposed to be, you hear the stuff they say on my page. You're an elitist. You think you're better than us. Like, bro, are you kidding me? Do you not know what our people accomplished with far less?
Man,
they didn't have cars and cell phones and money and bank accounts, pens and paper. They had their arms, their feet, their hands and legs. They didn't have air conditioning. Hell, they didn't even have mosquito spray. No. And they took on one of the biggest governments in the armies in the world and won.
Yeah.
How do I know they won for 120 years? Because it took 120 years to get them up out of there.
Yeah.
To me, that's a win. They had to say, look, we're just going to let y'all go to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We're going to let y'all go to Oklahoma because we
don't want none.
Washington was dealing with, all the way up until President Lincoln was dealing with these African warriors who had found themselves down in Florida. And that's just the Gullah Wars. We didn't even talk about the uprisings in 1712 in New York. I mean, that's why I started. And see, the thing is, man, we have got to be proud of being Black people in America. You call it descendant of slave? No, we're descendant of warriors. We're the people that keep fighting, kept fighting, been fighting, and never stop fighting. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So we can't let people punk us like that, man, and make us feel bad about our heritage anymore, man. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. And so that's one aspect I want to deal with. And the other aspect, seeing what you saw now and what our ancestors did and how victorious they were against the military, U.S. military. How can we now use this information to try to get rid of this Black inferiority complex that so many young Black men have, and older Black men? I can't do it. The white man won't let me. What waiting for white zaddy to slave. That's SYSBM, right? Why are you waiting for white zaddy to save you then? But go ahead, bro.
Well, I think a lot of people have they want a sure thing, right? Like people want a sure thing. They don't want to risk anything. They don't want to, there was a mention of those slaves that after they were freed, they went back to the plantation because they didn't know any different, right?
They didn't know any different.
They didn't know any different, and they didn't desire to know any different. And the reality is that there's always going to be those. But see, and they're okay with us knowing about that.
They didn't think they can do better either, bro. That's that low self-esteem. That's that Black inferiority. They didn't leave because it's like, well, we can't do better. If you had told them, well, if you walk 5 miles that way, it's some golden hills over there with all you want. They, well, I can do better. I'm gonna go down. I'm not going back to the plantation. That low self-esteem, that entrenched Black inferiority had a slave thinking that he can not do better than being a slave in his lifetime. Ain't that crazy? Just think about that, brother.
It's wild. The psychology behind it is crazy. And the reality is it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. I'm shocked at how many people have been on your page talking crazy. I'm like,
yeah.
What? I've had to read the words back again because I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm like, did he mean what I thought he meant? All of these, and it's. I think they have to see results, right? They got to see results until
when they see results, brother, they don't. It don't matter. Yeah. See, you got Black men like yourself and myself, and 60% of us who've reached the middle class. Yeah. This is not 1960 where only 20% of us were in the middle class. This is 2022 when 60% of black men have reached the middle class? There's no more excuses for that last little 20% who hadn't reached the middle class. If 60% of us can do it, what do you mean you being held back? If they was gonna hold us back, wouldn't they hold us at 5?
Yep.
Something like that. I can't. You running out of room, and the women are looking around like, well, you got these Mexican dudes and these Koreans who coming over here painting toenails and cutting grass. The next thing you know, they run in major American cities inside of 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, we have a hard time supporting our own. But again, I think it really comes back to, would it really work, right? Like if we really put our heads together, if we really, stayed on code, if we really got together, could we make it work? I believe we could, but I don't think there's very many people that do.
Well, actually, there are more of us, and I'm going to quote one of my favorite YouTube rising stars, Alvin Holden, who said that there are more of us than there are of them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter if they don't think they can do it. You know what this is like? Because I see that racism is a team sport. Yeah. And right now you got over half the team saying, we about to win this game. We about to get out here and lay it all out on the line. And you got 40% of the players saying, no, man, they got a better team than us, and we don't have the right equipment, and our coach doesn't have as much experience. We're hearing all this. That's what I hear. Yeah. And I mean, I hate to use a team vernacular to describe this, but that's just what it is. They just don't think they can because again, it's not just white superiority that we're dealing with. We're dealing with black inferiority. We're dealing with those mental chains of slavery. But go ahead, brother.
Well, I mean, and I get it. I get it. It wasn't until, I mean, like I said, COVID got me to where I had an opportunity to sit here and really open the books back up again. Mm-hmm. But I've always had this uneasy feeling.
Hold on one minute. Come over here. What you doing? Say goodbye. All right, y'all got it.
Uh-oh.
Come on.
Uh-oh.
All right. Bye-bye. Come here. Y'all fight well. I'll be up there after a while. Yeah.
Those skis are nice.
Send them on that goddamn fight out. Go fight somebody, boy.
Yes.
Right? My classes start after theirs. So I'll be up there after a while. Right. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
No.
I to my sons before they leave the house,
No, so that's respect.
Yes, sir.
I just I've always had this uneasy feeling, right? There was always something missing, and again, like I was saying, I would go back, you would read about, my dad is a history buff, and he's a biblical guy. He knows the Bible very well.
Yeah.
And so again, when you go back into the history books and you look at all these other cultures and you look back, and it's like they have such a long history, and you say, okay, I can understand some of those things. And then you look at ours and it's just muted, cut off. And it's done. It's very much, and you could tell it's intentional.
But see, those people keep their history alive through their celebrations, through their holidays. What if we just start celebrating some of these days? I mean, we got 160 revolutions of battles we can talk about. The war, we can talk about it. Why do we have to wait around? Just like what I'm doing here on YouTube. Why do I have to wait around for the white man to give me permission to celebrate our people's victory over them? They're never going to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely not.
You whoop somebody's butt, if you go out there and kick somebody in the face, Alvin, they're not going to want to remember that date. You see what I'm saying?
No.
Do you think they want to talk about the 120 years they had to fight black people who were in Florida? You see now why them people in South Carolina was so goddamn racist. Because they had to constantly be looking over their show. You see now why Georgia is so goddamn racist. I understand now. You see what I'm saying? Because they grew up constantly under fear of threat of these black Africans whooping up on them and running up there, taking all their slaves and killing them off. That's why they're so goddamn angry down in Georgia. It makes sense now, Not that they make sense. Shout out to my 2 cents. What else would you like to add, bro?
Like I said, I just thank you for being able to do this.
Man.
And for bringing and to keeping the foot on the gas, You know
man.
what they say, keeping the gators on their neck.
I'm not gonna ease up off of them.
And because I'm tired. I am tired. I am so tired of this of the same old.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of the people that shouldn't be our voice being our voice.
Exactly. You are not these Pookie and Ray Rays and these ignoramus. You're not allowed to speak for me.
No.
I'm going to speak for myself.
No.
Me and the 60% of black men who reach the middle class, we don't want you speaking for us anymore. Yeah. All that thuggery and all that, no, it's over. No. Your day is done.
Done.
You know, all that EL, you're trying to shame educated black men, that's done. That's why your ass is some goddamn Pookie predators and Ray the rapist now. So if you want to pin us as educated lanes, well, you're a cockroach. You're a cockroach predator Pookie. And the other ones, you a Ray the rape. Y'all gonna learn to shut up. You can't. How you think you was gonna win this fight? See, I'm not one of them brothers. I'm not that nice.
No.
You know, I didn't have to. Well, you ain't even from the hood. You can't tell us about hood life. I'm like, dude,
brother.
I was hood before it was fashionable. You see what I'm saying? I'm not. You know, like I don't want to hear it. Yeah. You don't have any excuses with me. If I can do it, you can do it. When your dad was a lawyer, my adopted father who lived in Texas while I lived in South Central LA, yes, he was a lawyer. But with that, between that 1,000 miles, there was a whole lot of gangster Crips and bullets and police that could have shot me.
Yeah.
Now, thank God for the influence that I had. But no, and you know, the thing is, and I'm going to talk about this in my Father's Day series. Big shout out, not father, but shout out to Mr. Palmer. I've been promising him that I'm going to do a comprehensive study and get rid of all the stereotypes about black fatherhood. My father was not the father that I am to my children. I appreciate him, but he couldn't be. You see what I'm saying? He grew up in a different time, in a different place, a different Texas. He didn't have the money, time, and resources that I have. My children will be who they think I am right now. Yeah. Because they have privilege, and I'm proud that I'm able to provide those privileges for them. But I didn't have that. I grew up in South Central LA, and unfortunately, having a father who's a lawyer and he can't afford to get you to the private schools and whatnot, you just there with everybody else. But now that I look back on it, I'm happy because now I can relate to the brothers, and I can fairly say, bro, you don't have no excuse, especially looking at history. History doesn't provide you the excuse that you want, black man. Your ancestors, having nothing, stood up. You understand? Your ancestors, having had nothing, no education, no nothing, they stood up and fought the white man physically for your freedom, for their freedom. All I'm asking you brothers to do is get a job. All I'm asking you brothers to do is get some sort of craft, whether it's engineering, electrical work, whether it's a plumbing job or construction or whatever, police, fireman. That's all I'm asking you to do is stand up. That's it. That's it. Stand up and be the best man you can be. I'm not even putting any parameters on that, Alvin. I'm just saying stand up and be the best man you can be. Because White Zaddy is not coming to save him, Alvin.
No.
And them asking permission for him, they're not going to get the answer they want. Go ahead, brother.
Well, I mean, another thing too is like Zaddy don't want you here.
Yeah.
They don't want us here. Anybody, look, I got a lot of white friends. I deal with a lot of white people, but deep down, let's just be real. They do not want us here. And if it came down to it, if it meant me or them or someone that looked like me or someone that looked like them, they're going to pick the person that looked like them. Yeah. I'm going to leave you on this one.
Yes,
and
sir.
This is how disrespectful this country is to black people. And I want anyone that's listening, and I want you to pay attention to this. Okay. When you play baseball, what do you play on? It's a baseball, a diamond, right?
Right.
When you play hockey, you play a what? It's on a hockey rink.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, those are predominantly white sports, right?
Yes.
Now, when you play football, what do they got you on?
A field.
Damn field. Hold up. I'm not done yet. Yeah. When you play basketball, where they got you? On a court, in court. Either on court, man. Or you in the field. That's how little they respect you, black man. That's how little they fucking respect you. They won't even change the name of the place where they got you playing. That's how little they respect you. They won't even change the name.
Ain't that some shit? You know what? Okay.
Ain't that some shit?
But you know, just in all fairness, they would call fields and diamonds before black.
But here's the thing. But that's the thing. They didn't change it. They didn't. Yeah. They left it exactly where it was.
Well, that's man, crazy. Look, and I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm not mad at white men and white women and Hispanic men and Asian men and all of them. I'm not mad at them for doing what's in their own best interest.
Me neither.
I'm not mad at them for keeping their own history alive. I'm not mad at them for telling themselves they're the best ever. But what we need to do is start telling ourselves we're the best ever. What we need to do is start celebrating our past and our heroes. Stop letting people put our ancestors down, calling them slaves and whatnot. We can't allow that no more, man. You know your history now. The next time somebody calls a slave, say, look, we've been fighting these white folks for 120 years till they quit. Yeah. We fought them for 120 years until they said, well, we can't fight them no more. We can't do it. And they let us go to Oklahoma. Look at the we've been upright. Say that's not slavery. No. As a matter of fact, what you have over there is slavery because they came and enslaved you on your own land. Got you running you from pillar to post. So don't compare what you're doing to what we still fighting.
Yeah.
You the reason you're here and we're not going there is because we fought. And therefore it's safer for you to be here. It's safer and more productive for you to be here in our country than you to stay where you at. They tell you that all the time. Well, I come here because of the resources. I come here because you have more. Yeah, because we fought for that and we still fighting for that.
Yeah.
Now, if you've been fighting for the last 150 years, 200, like we've been fighting, and the first 150 years, if you've been fighting physically, the white folks would have left a long time ago. You ain't fought like us. We are fighters. We're warriors. So that spirit of compromise and coonish behavior that you have, hey, man, that's not us. But anyway, brother, man, what else you got to say, Alvin?
I would just say, like I said, man, I can't thank you enough because the type of the type of pride in just a small portion that you just did, just touched me in a place that, you get excited in a way that it's not typical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what, I'm hearing something I needed to hear because it's waking me up in a way that because I was running around working and once you got started, I was like, let me hurry up and get home so I could jump on here really quick and at least give you and at least say thank you in person because we need to hear more of this and I hope that we can find a way. I know that I'm going to do my part in trying to put together as many like-minded individuals as I can so that we can continue this because I like the momentum that we're on. I like the fact that, because we can't wait, right? Like we can't wait for anybody else. We can't wait for, trying to get this group or that group or whatever. We just kind of have to do it. And it's always going to have to be that way. And I think the second we realize that, the second we start to get a little bit of pride in ourselves, and you said it right. You hit the nail on the head with that, just a Black inferiority complex. And because just hearing it hurts my ears, and it pisses me off. But when you look back at what's being said and what's being done, that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
White folks couldn't keep you down if you thought you were better than they were.
No.
That's why you can't keep the white folks down because they think you better. They will do anything they can to win because they feel deep down inside in their bones that they're better than you.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, that's what it does. But see, it's eating them up because now when they're confronted with the fact that they're losing their country, their land, the world, resources, it bothers them. And so they're, over ODing and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. We are all equal. And I went to the mosque this weekend, Mosque 45, and I took my boys. I think I put a couple pictures up for everybody to see.
I saw that.
Pull that up, man. I
saw that.
I go to the mosque and I go to the Nation of Islam Mosque because it's very masculine there. You understand? A lot of strong men in there. And I like to hear other strong men talk. And I want my sons to hear other strong men talk. And it ain't all this punk talk, all this compromise and whatnot. And they're not even there talking about, hey, kill the white people. That's not what they're doing in there. They're talking about black people, black men specifically, being the best men they can be. And I enjoy that. I appreciate that, man. And I do the very best I can to instill that in my brother, my sons. And you know, we're Christian, and you know, we love Jesus. I was born you know, a Southern Baptist, and I'm gonna die a Southern Baptist. But I do enjoy going to the Muslim mosque to you know, fellowship, or they call it a meeting, to fellowship with the brothers over there. And I invite all of you brothers to do that, man. Don't let, if they can have Andrew Jackson, this murderous savage, right, on the cover of a $20 bill, you better not let them keep you away from your brothers. That's me and my sons. Got that fresh bean pie. I don't know if y'all had a bean pie. Bean pie is some of the best pie you can eat. But that's, you see the brothers in the FOI over there, the ladies, all covered up. So you know, I say all that to say, man, you got to be, you have got to get rid of that inferiority, and you need to go where you need to go. That people talk strong, act strong, talk masculine. We want to be conquerors, not the conquered. Yeah. See, the ones that have that that inferiority complex, that black inferiority complex, they're the conquered, and that's how they want to keep you. Yeah. They want to keep you conquered, and I'm telling you, you're conquerors. Yeah. And I've showed you what your people did. I showed they fought the U.S. government for 120 years coming out of Florida. Not just that, but look at all those other uprisings. Yeah. Look at all that. White folks was paranoid as hell. They couldn't sleep at night. You know, you had that brother down in the German coast. So the goddamn slave, the mulatto slave driver was the one in charge. Like, who can we trust? You see what I'm saying?
Well, now, well, knowing that history makes again, you know that now you're like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. Yeah. You know, this makes a lot more sense. You know, when you had delete laws on here, they were talking about gun laws for a split second.
Right.
Same kind of thing, right? You know, it's like, oh, we can't have them with guns. This makes a lot more sense. You know, when you had delete laws on here, they were talking about gun laws.
Yeah.
But I think it's, you know, again, having a healthy knowledge of our past, of our history will do nothing but help us in the future. Where they say those ignorant of their past are doomed to repeat it, is the saying. Yeah. And so there's a lot of unknowledgeable Black folk out there right now. Folk, period, right? Because that was what I was going to say. The beauty of racism, and at least the beauty of the United States' racism, is that there's plausible deniability. Meaning that a lot of white folks can go their whole lives and never punch a Black person and never do anything negative to a Black person, but completely support the systems that keep us where we are, keep the things in place where we are. And that's the beauty of it. So they can add to it, or they can participate in it, but not actually have to go out and do the acts, right? Yeah. They have the police for that. They have the slave, you know, patrol for that.
Yeah. See, the thing I want to point out, man, I want to just point this out to you guys. It's not white supremacy, racism that's our problem. We're our problem because we have Black inferiority. When we stop believing that we're inferior, we will be. Now, some of us don't believe that and never bought into it. And you see how successfully their lives end up. And, oh, well, you're just special. You didn't know. We are our own worst enemy at this point, brothers. And we need to get out of our way. And it starts with us. It doesn't start with these women. These women are not going to help you do anything. They just going to follow along. They're going to follow it best. Okay? Yeah. But anyway, hit the W if you appreciate this conversation. And I hope you guys do. Hit the W. I want to make, and somebody said the super chat is not working anymore. Is the super did Facebook, did YouTube demonetize this? Y'all let me know. Give me $2, $5. I just need to know.
They be trying to get you.
Somebody contribute. Yeah, they don't like my program.
They be trying to get you.
I wear a coat and tie, man, and I got a suit on and stuff. No, I cuss a little bit. But they don't like this. This is not the sort of, and I'm not one of these pro-Black dudes. I'm pro-Black man, which is more dangerous than being pro-Black. empowering black men poses a threat to the system. Because what happens when you get a bunch of black men who begin, a bunch of any other kind of men who begin to feel good about themselves, who begin to feel like, hey, we can conquer, we can build. That's dangerous for the status quo anywhere. You see what I'm saying? And so, and then the other thing is, it makes other men who are used to being lackluster uncomfortable, Alvin. See, if you're used to being able to hide behind excuses of why you can't do it, it's the white man's fault. You uncomfortable when you start seeing people like myself and you and what's my young brother? I forget, Negro. What's his name? All you other brothers.
Yeah.
It makes them
Vintage
uncomfortable.
Negro.
There's a movement happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Vintage Negro. There's a movement happening of black men saying, hey, enough with the goddamn excuses. And matter of fact, it's more of us than it is of the slackers.
Yeah.
So you don't have an excuse anymore. This ain't 1960, 1980.
No.
There's more of us than there is of you. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to have to move with us, brother. We're going to carry this team forward. And a lot of y'all don't like that. Y'all can call it elitism. You can say it's educated lanes versus, what do they call it? No. The brothers, the blue collar brothers hate y'all more than we do because they actually getting out there turning wrenches and pipes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They out there pulling lumber down and cutting down trees and stuff. And so they really don't like a shiftless man making excuses for why he can't succeed. Because they're using their bodies. They're using their hands. They're using their arms and their backs and their necks. So they really don't like y'all. Yeah. You think I don't care what you do. As long as you ain't running up in my house and trying to steal my goddamn car. But the blue collar brothers who got to live with you, who got to live next to plumbers, electricians, those people that have to live in those working class neighborhoods, they hate y'all. Yeah. It's not me. They hate y'all.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to save you from ass whooping. Okay. So just keep that in mind. But all that educated lame stuff, y'all need to stop. Y'all want me to ease up? Because see, it's funny, man. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more. It was all good till I start calling for the eradication. Then you play too rough. You play too rough, Uncle D. You saying eradicate us. You playing too rough. It was all good when we was educated lames and they was winning, but then I said just treat them like roaches and get rid of them. Oh, you play too rough.
Oh,
notice that the crying came out. Look at the internet. Google Dennis Sperling. He said eradication.
Clutching pearls.
Y'all just pull your goddamn skirts up on us, huh? You didn't know. See, let me tell you, young blood, something, man. Let me explain something to y'all, man.
Jesus Christ.
The world is going to be destroyed not by some thug with a handgun. It's going to be destroyed by PhDs. That's who's going to destroy it. MDs and SCDs. Those are the ones who create nuclear bombs. The reason that we're scared to death of an alien invasion from a superior group, a superior intelligent group, because when you're intelligent, you can rationalize and things a lot easier. The reason that they have more intelligent people being the lieutenants and the captains, because the captain and the general will give a kill order faster than some private, because that captain and that general has already studied this and contemplated this. Go out and kill them, go out and kill, period. And they'll do it and go have a cup of tea. So when you're dealing with intelligent, thoughtful men like myself, we've already processed these things. We know what needs to happen because we've studied history. And we understand that history is just the way you change history and change the course of history. Unfortunately, is through culling the weak, bloodshed. You see what I'm saying? So for me to say, yeah, we need to get rid of the rapists and the child molesters and the predators that have destroyed the black community, that's very easy for me to say because it's obvious that that's what has to happen for us to have a righteous, moral black society that we need to live in. And the fact that you got the Nation of Islam leaders, Minister Farrakhan, Malcolm X, all these other people, including the Hebrew Israelites, saying everything, along with many of the presidents around the world, it lets you know that that's where it is. So that made them, that was too rough. You see what I'm saying? But I thought they wanted to play rough. Didn't they want to play rough?
No. They wanted to. They said play.
Yeah.
Not play. Not really be rough. And I was.
They're gonna learn.
It's been fascinating, man. I can't lie. Like some there's some legitimate tough guys out here like, oh my God, Dennis said to me, they called us roaches.
You're roaches, yeah. Y'all roaches. Y'all roaches.
Called us roaches.
You're roaches.
And he shouldn't be able to say things like that. I'm like, wow, these dudes sound like females. It's crazy.
You sound like women. You sound like little girls.
Crazy.
And what that really did was, in 2 or 3 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, when y'all really get back to listening to them, you black men are going to lose a lot of respect for these so-called tough guys. Because you're going to be like, these dudes really, and it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
See, what's going on now is brothers are saying, well, they ain't that tough. Why are we even tripping? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You're looking at them for what they are. And see, I grew up with these dudes. See, gangbangers running gangs because they too weak to handle it on their own.
Mm.
That's why you need gangs. See, a lion, what? Just you. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? But what? Hyenas and dogs run in packs. Lions don't need no help. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
I don't need help. I whoop all y'all asses in a row at the same time. You see what I'm saying? Because I pull what we used to call back in LA, I pull your whole card. Because I know who you really are. You're really a bunch of cowards, and you hide behind that false bravado. No. And at the end of the day, y'all really just scared little boys. Yeah. And I'm a grown-ass man. And I know what you're scared of. You scared of responsibility. You scared of being called out. You scared of having to put up or shut up. That makes you uncomfortable because you're afraid. Yeah. And I know fear. I can hear the fear in your voice. All that talking y'all doing about, that's fear. I hear it. You're afraid. And I'm okay with that. I love you, and I love you, brothers. But I had to really show you who you are. You're afraid. You're afraid things are changing. You're afraid you're being left behind. The reason you call these black men educated lames is because you're afraid that they're leaving you behind. You're afraid that little hood rat that you like might turn around and start liking him, the dude with the suit on. Not me, because I talk ebonics and shit. Not me. I'm talking about the young college student. You're afraid. You see what I'm saying? And I get it. And it's okay to be afraid. But what you can't do is attack the brothers like myself, Green Gorilla, T. Hassan Johnson, Kevin Samuels, for forcing you to step your game up, man. Yeah. You can't, Dr. Ronald O'Neill, you can't get mad at us for saying it's time to step your game up, man. Yeah. No longer we ain't gonna be riding around in these Hyundais no more. We're gonna get some Rolls Royces and some Bentleys.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? It's that time. Be happy I'm doing it and not this white man.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Because I actually love you and I want to see you do well. I want to see all you brothers do well, man.
Yeah.
Real talk. I met a goddamn former drug dealer in front of the goddamn Nation of Islam. Tell me, I said, well, brother, what you up to now? Well, it's been years ago. I'm like, well, you know that shit was wrong, right? He said, yeah, I understand that. That's why I joined the Nation. I denounced it. I'll do it. I'm like, okay, well, give me a call. I said, but still, you see what I mean? You got to spend the rest of your life denouncing what you did in the past, not bigging it up, not making other youngsters think it's the right thing to do, and you got them headed down the path of destruction. You see what I mean? That's not how this works. You see what I mean? You denounce that shit, and we move on as a group. But anyway, y'all better lead. Look, don't. I'm not the one. Uncle D is on what they call it. I'm on the firewall now. Uncle D is on the fire. This is Gitmo, and I'm doing Overwatch. I will pop your ass. So keep that bullshit out your mouth. Keep that EL bullshit. Keep it kosher. You respect me, I'm gonna respect you. But when you start talking about educated lames, I'm one of the most educated people on Black YouTube right now. So who the fuck are you talking about? You see what I'm saying? You talking about me, and I got smoke for your ass. All you drug dealers, all these dudes hiding behind these little icons. Because you don't want your parole officer to see you with your dirty t-shirts. You scum, you know you're scum, but I still love you. And here's the crazy thing, man. For years, a couple of years almost, I ignored most of the shit they said until they started attacking Dr. T. Hassan Johnson and Dr. Ron O'Neill and the Green Gorilla. That's when I had a problem for you, because those are nice men. Kevin Sam, those are nice guys. They're kind. I'm not like them. I'll fuck you up and laugh about it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I really meant that shit that I said. You deserve death. And I think people really understood that I really meant that. I'm not like them. You see what I'm saying? I done seen dead bodies on the street. I done cousins dying and shit in my arms.
Yeah.
I'm not like them.
Yeah.
My shit is fucked up. I wish that I hadn't had to endure all that I had to endure growing up. I thank God that I'm who I am, but I'm traumatized from childhood shit. Even now, I've been to therapy back in 2015. They like, man, you should have shot yourself in the head a long time ago from what you dealt with. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not like them.
Yeah.
You know, so what I'm telling y'all is give them brothers they space. Give Dr. Tiosan Johnson, Dr. Ron O'Neal, the Green Gorilla, Kevin Sam, give them their space, and you're gonna have to deal with me, and I'm gonna get rid of your ass. You understand what I'm saying, fellas? I want all y'all to hear me very carefully. Leave that EL shit alone. Stop disrespecting these brothers because you're afraid of being left behind. Because you're afraid that little hood rat bitch is not going to want to be with you no more when she see this little college boy. So you constantly talking about who fuck better and who don't. You big dummy. You weed smoking motherfucker. You dirty t-shirt, 40 ounce drinking ass. You think you can outdo one of these college athletes in the bedroom? They will wear your girlfriend out.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? That's an EL for your ass. This nigga's running a 4.1 in the 40. You see what I'm saying? Built like Shaka Zulu or something like that. And you think you can outdo that? That's what college boys is doing. You understand me? So that's stupid for you to say that he better and be tougher. He'll whoop your ass. That's what he'll do. I'd had to fight some of them young motherfuckers over at Texas Southern. Them niggas is strong. You know, in the karate class and stuff. After about 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, man, I can't, you know.
They do build them a little different in Texas.
So y'all need to cut that shit out. Y'all want peace in the manosphere? Just shut the fuck up. That's what you do. Stop talking shit. You'll have peace. That's all I'm saying. Like, but if you want war, I got you. Did they not see the books? Hold on a minute. Did you guys not see that I wrote 3 volumes?
Hit them with the
700
books.
pages of books on how to maintain peace of mind and happiness in a conflicted world. I'm the conflict king over here. You understand? I undermine all y'all arguments in 2 weeks. You went from being tough guy thugs to Pookie Predator Roaches and Ray the Rapist. That's what you went from. And one dude did that to all you motherfuckers. So do you really want some more? Okay, so here's my olive branch. Let that shit go. You understand? And stop bringing up Brother Malcolm X and your bullshit to try to defend yourself, because all you doing is tearing down his legacy. Yeah. All right, so this is going to be the last week of me burying you motherfucking cockroaches. Excuse me for cussing. I'm going to bury y'all and I'm going to let the shit go. But if I hear any motherfucker talking that shit about EL shit again, I'm gonna come back and it's gonna be worse. I'm gonna start pulling prison jackets and talking about how many of you motherfuckers been raped in prison. I know you motherfucking wardens. I'm gonna pull your not your criminal record, you dumb motherfucker, your prison jackets. The shit, the little conversations you said slick behind the door to the PO, to the correctional officer, and how you got somebody fucked you in the ass and shit. And I'm gonna bring all that shit up. I'm gonna expose the shit is gonna mysteriously get leaked onto the manosphere somewhere, and everybody's gonna know what kind of shit that you did while you was in prison with your little dope dealing asses, your little wannabe tough asses. I'm gonna tell you what them old dudes did to your ass in prison. So keep playing with me. Now, some of y'all who know me, you know I'll do it, and I ain't gonna have no emotions about it. Period, because you deserve it. So just let it go. Just let it go. You can't win this. Sometimes some people come along that you shouldn't have fucked with. I'm that guy. And I love you.
Yeah.
I'm your big brother. I love you. I want to see you win. I don't want to bring up your fucking past. But y'all need to let these young brothers who are educated go on and feel good about themselves. And so we can get more young educated brothers who are engineers who are willing to help build. That's what we need. We don't need no more thugs and rappers and gang. We don't need no more of that.
No.
We need builders. We need good fathers. We need men. That's what I want. You understand me? And so you guys, you unaccomplished dudes, you feel threatened because you got dudes on the internet talking shit about and making you feel bad. Your woman looking at you sideways. Well, why you can't do that? That ain't my problem, man. But see, the thing is, you can't use that excuse of white supremacy no more because you see what your ancestors did with far less. You don't have those excuses no more, man. And we don't want to hear that. It's more of us than it is of you. We love you. I got some ridiculous ass, gangster ass, dope dealing ass cousins right now. I love them motherfuckers. They impress. I get 2 calls a week from the penitentiary. 2 different goddamn penitentiaries. Y'all should hook up and I don't know, maybe y'all should get to the same jail or something like that. Keep each other company. I love them motherfuckers, but they some pookies too, some predator pookies at that. And I love them, and I want to see them do well. But what you're not going to do is tear down the brothers have done well, trying to soil their reputation up. You're not going to do that, not on my watch. And I hope that there's somebody out there who hears me. I want you brothers to take my place. I don't want to do this shit no more. I'm tired of fighting. I tell my fiance all the time, I'm fucking tired of fighting. I gotta, this is I just won my goddamn custody agreement with custody battle with my ex-wife. That shit took 2 years. I got another one I've been fighting with my baby mama for the past 7 years. That trial is coming up in March. You understand? I got my own shit to deal with. But then when you make it uncomfortable for young brothers like Alvin and you other young brothers who are trying to do good for them, that pisses me off. It really does. Because y'all know that hood life shit ain't shit. You know it ain't shit. And so stop trying to pub that up. Prison ain't shit. Shit. You know that. And you keep selling, you keep wolfing it up like this is your rites of passage because you sold some crack cocaine in 2015 and went to jail for 3 or 4 years. No, you're an idiot. You're an idiot, and you committed genocide. You sold it to your own people, and your dumb ass got caught. So that's nothing that we want to look forward to. We want plumbers, electricians, engineers. We want construction workers. We want post office, firemen, police officers. We want lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs. What is that shit called when they computer programmers, astronauts? That's what we want. That's what black men, that's what I want for you. You understand? And so this shit is going to die with me. It was my generation that started this thug shit, and it's going to be my generation that ends this thug shit. Before my generation, they wasn't sagging their pants and out there selling that dope. That's on me. So all you Generation X motherfuckers, it's on us to bury this shit. We can't let these children keep dying in our wake. They look up to us. Remember that. It's on us to bury this shit. So I appreciate what Dr. Tia San Johnson's doing. He's trying to bury it. Kevin Samuels, he's trying to bury that image that we have. Green Gorilla, Ron O'Neal, they're trying to bury that shit, man. And I'm gonna fucking put a bullet in the motherfucker to bury it. You understand me? So y'all let that shit go, man. But anyway, I love you, brother. Thank you so much, Alvin. I appreciate y'all, man. I hope y'all appreciate this history lesson and this 20-minute rant.
It's going for the record books. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. But anyway, man, it's all good. It is. I love y'all, man. I don't want my sons to grow up in the shitty ass type of world that I grew up where they had to bear the burden of those reputations, man. I don't want that. And so I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm gonna do everything I can as a man, as a black man, to change the reputation that we have. I'm gonna do everything I possibly can to change that reputation before I take my last breath on this earth. And I hope that you men join along. And anybody fighting against that, anybody trying to make it seem like it's something pathological or wrong with dressing clean and sounding proper when you speak or going to college, you my enemy. And I'm gonna do everything I can to get rid of you, period. So, and make your life hard. But either way, man, shout out to my man, Alvin. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody, man. This is Uncle D. As I always said this time, man, I'm out.
Thank you.